ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with Chapter 1 of the laws of 2022 and until at least February 14, 2022. All of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference, so we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. We have a full agenda posted on the town's website for today's meeting. The town's planning staff, as well as applicants and their representatives, will be participating via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will be muting and holding the speakers in a virtual waiting room until it's their time to give testimony before the board. A reminder that applicants and their agents should state their name and address for the record. As is typical, there are no public comments during our daytime meetings, nor is it appropriate for the public to use the chat function to comment on applications. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website on the town clerk's meeting portal. If you're having difficulty accessing the meeting, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Finally, in accordance with the legislation, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed at a later date and will be made available to the public. Can you please join in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have a roll call, Gloria, please?
Chair LaFaro.
Chair present.
Vice Chair Finity, I believe, is late. The secretary is here. Board Member Long.
Present.
Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Here.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any minutes, Gloria, to approve?
We do, October 28th and November 10.
And November 10. Have a motion to approve? Motion by Robin, second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to the agenda, and the first, Jackie, it's you. It's Fink and Miller Schwen.
Hi, yes. We are technically at an action deadline, and let me share the screen, but Charles, if you could please let in John Bennett and possibly,
John is here.
And possibly John Borquin if he's in the waiting room.
There is.
Thank you. Can you all see the aerial?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the subject application, I just want to discuss this with the planning board because this does qualify for a transfer. So depending on the outcome of the discussion regarding the wetlands, we can proceed with a final conditional approval of the transfer. But I was made aware that there are wetlands in this very northeastern corner of the Elks property, which is, this property is subject to the lot line modification here. So this is zoomed in, the wetlands are right here. So, we would consider possible wetland setbacks here. This parcel is receiving this area. It's basically going around the existing structure and they're getting that back piece. So this, I just did a very, simple sketch, and this is a 75-foot buffer, which is normally appropriate under our 292-39B referrals for compliance with Chapter 325, just so you can have a visual of seeing where these wetlands are. They're approximately right here. So it may impact this back portion, the northwestern portion of the subject property. And then this, just so you can visualize, this is the transfer map. which essentially this lot will remain in conformance and this lot will be brought into conformance with the additional transfer of land and result in this configuration here. So the wetlands are approximately in this location. So the planning board is responsible under 292 to consider wetland implications for subdivisions, and lot line modifications are treated as subdivisions. So I wanted to bring this to the planning board's attention and have a discussion so that I know how to proceed and, essentially have a thorough approval for you after this discussion.
Do they plan on building on that parcel where the wetlands
Is
are?
anyone else experiencing problems? Or
And on what, John? Oh, we lost John. There you are. John, are you here?
Is anyone having problems, technical problems? I'm stuff fading in and out.
We can see you.
We can see you and hear you, John.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Should I didn't hear, but Jackie. my
Yeah,
office
all
and
I
Jackie
asked
had
was,
some
are they-
conversations. It's about,
Are they planning on building on that piece that where the corner has wetlands?
I can't hear you.
You
It's
can't.
very
huh?
frustrating.
Can you hear us? Maybe you could go out and come back in.
No
It's
audio.
very frustrating. Can you all be patient? I'll log off and come back in.
Sure.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to log off and come back in. I don't know what's going on. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience.
Jackie, while we're waiting for John, could you bring the aerial back up? Because
Sure. So this is it right here. And then this is this is the aerial before I knew there was wetlands, but you can see that dark spot right here. So it's not a major implication because it's really here, but this is my, very simple sketch trying to, hug the, boundary of the wetlands as I saw them and just show you that it may implicate that rear portion of the property. Which would be, yes.
Sorry, that outline of something in the corner of the property on the survey looks like a foundation. It's hard to see. If you go back to the survey,
Okay.
yeah, the outline to the
I
back.
bel- I believe
Yeah,
it's,
what-
I
what
believe
is-
it's a garden,
Oh, okay.
but I could zoom in for you.
and what's that other structure?
Garden.
The building that's
This building.
yes.
This
Is
is
that-
this is like a studio building. I believe the gentleman uses it for like art, I think.
It's Patton Miller's art studio. He's a
Okay, all right, that's,
well-known local artist.
yeah,
And that's on lot 2, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, this will be the result right here. And, the wetlands are in this vicinity. So I asked John Bennett's office and spoke with Bailey and just asked if there was any information so that we can confirm the location of the wetlands, because it may, generally we're required to impose a buffer and make sure the properties are in compliance with Chapter 325. So that may require a buffer in this rear area. But otherwise, the application is in compliance with transfer standards. They're making this pre-existing non-conforming smaller lot conforming. This will remain conforming. So I have no other issues, but wanted to bring this to the planning board's attention. It was also referenced from the conservation board in their comments. So I'll make that a full view. So they basically.
That undeveloped area with the wetlands, that's not going to be developed because it's just going to become part of the property that's on McGee Street, adjacent to Patton Miller's house.
Correct. And it might be, improved in the future. That's up to the other property owner to the north. Maybe accessory structures, it's possible.
But
So I just wanted,
we're not creating another house lot.
no, we are not.
No. You're making the 2 lots more conforming.
Mhm.
Would you like me to read this into the record? I'm not sure if it's, legible for you.
No.
This is
It's legible.
conservation board. You can read it.
It's
Okay.
legible, yeah.
So
It's
they're basically saying that there's a recharge basin, and it needs to be shown on the transfer map and consistent with the requirements of 325-9A. It's possible that a 25-foot buffer needs to be preserved, and the map should basically show that. And then we should do a 29239B referral, which is customary for issues like this. So I brought this to the applicant's attention previously, so this is our chance to discuss it. And John, you can hear us now?
Yes, thank you very much. Sorry
Yeah.
for the confusion.
It's okay.
John, do you have anything to add? We
I thought
understand.
we have an all Democrat board now, right?
No, you do not.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
not.
no,
That is
because
grossly in error.
that's what I thought too, because I was afraid that when I lost contact, I was being canceled.
No, it was a gross in error. In fact, the Southampton Press issued a correction.
Yeah, that didn't make sense to me. Anyway, so anyway, and thank you for your patience as always with my, little jabs.
Technology, it's
Yeah.
always a trouble.
So this is the situation we have here. This wetlands is not, if it is indeed a wetlands, is not on the subject property. I have no way of marking the wetlands. I can't go on to the neighboring property to mark the wetlands. This is the Elks Club property, which was subject to a lot line modification some years ago. Mercedes picked up about an acre, and there was no request for any sort of demarcation of the wetlands. It's the same property. And the bind that is here is that you are the approving authority under Chapter 325. But this is under 325.5. The planning board is clearly the approving authority, but this is it's not a regulated activity. What I'm doing here. I'll refer you to 325-6. Place or deposit any fill, clear, dig or dredge, plant, seed or cultivate or maintain all different sorts of things, erect, construct or reconstruct or enlarge a structure or building, obviously, put a cesspool or septic tank in, diminish or enlarge in size any wetland by filling, damming or dredging. Those are the regulated activities. I'm not pursuing any regulated activity. So that's the reason, for example, why the state wetlands law, if you go to the state on a wetlands, on a freshwater wetlands, a subdivision is not a regulated activity. It's not. If I was pursuing some regulated activity here, I mean, you're the approving authority. There's no question about it. But all I'm doing is changing a boundary line. So I don't see where there's any jurisdictional grab. You'll speak to your counsel about this, of course, but I don't see it. And there's no power just to create buffers where there's no nexus between that and a regulated activity. Plus the fact that this is not wetlands on the property. And, I query whether or not it's even a wetland. If you can see it, it's on the Elks Club property. It's surrounded by a chain link fence, and it has a pipe going into it. So the only thing I could think of is to try to maybe, and I'll speak to my client about this, to sort of mollify any concerns that this will get somehow lost in the mix somehow down the road if somebody comes in. The DEC sometimes they require you just to have a notice covenant on the property that says, this area may be regulated by, in this case, it'd be Chapter 325. So somebody couldn't say, oh, I didn't know that. So I could talk to my client about that. As far as I'm concerned, it's a minimal burden on the property, but, and that would be a way of trying to perhaps assuage some of the concerns that the board may have, but I don't see how you have, a jurisdictional grab here. Just look at 325.6 for yourself and you'll see I'm not asking for any regulated activity. I mean, usually if you're in the subdivision process and there's wetlands, I think people just, as a matter of course, okay, you want to establish some buffers. Why don't we get that done now? Because somebody's down the road is going to have to do that anyhow. But it's on the wetlands on the lot. I don't have any power, nor for that matter, does the board have any power to insist on access to the Elks Club property. They don't have any sort of pending application.
So John, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
On that lot, it's lot one, Jackie? If you-
It's
Yeah.
lot A, I think.
Lot- Lot one.
Yes, lot one.
That could be further subdivided?
No.
No,
No.
this
No,
cannot.
it cannot. Okay,
No.
okay.
Yeah, lot one will receive, it'll become 66,000 and this is in the R60 zone.
So would a notice be sufficient? Would we be adhering to our requirement as a planning board and wetlands?
I can look into that to, one of my just concerns is that, it's there, we're made aware of it. Let's discuss it, see how the board wants to deal with it. I did want to mention though, that I think Wayne was trying to comment. So I'm not sure if he has privileges to speak. I did see him on here.
Okay, one thing I want to add, understand, my position is that you don't have any jurisdiction to do anything with that offsite recharge basin. I'm merely offering it as an accommodation to assuage some fears, subject of course to my clients and both Mr. Pat Miller's approval and my client's approval. I would recommend it to him, but ultimately it's up to them. But that's, I'm trying to, as I say, assuage any fears that the board may have about some sort of activity within, jurisdiction of that purported wetland of getting lost. So the thought would be a covenant. But in any event,
John, John.
my position.
John, would the notice covenant just reflect the fact that should whoever has ownership of that, if they were to engage in any of the regulated activities, then in that case that there's a possibility relevant to that area in the back that there may be a requirement that they in fact go before to get the permitting from that in conformance with the chapter?
That's what I was thinking of, so that somebody couldn't say, well, how was I supposed to know?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is going to be a bit of still going to be an issue down the road. How do you flag somebody else's wetlands? But at least, I don't think at this point it's appropriate, given the fact that there are no regulated activities, and that's a term of art, to impose any sort of buffer. Anyway. But yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of a note. Christina, you've seen them before in title reports. There's a DEP notice covenant. Maybe I thought I was going to recommend, see if the clients would agree to that as sort of a compromise.
Okay. So John, do you want us to proceed with this now?
I don't think Jackie has the report ready.
You don't have the report, Jackie.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the
Okay, all right,
planning board would like to do. So I was asking just for a 30-day extension. If I can get everything done and do it, I'll put it on for the next meeting.
Can I
Yeah,
just
of
ask
course.
a question? Is that designated wetlands or is it water getting pumped in from somewhere? What is?
Sounds like a recharge basin where stormwater goes into, right? From
Yeah,
somewhere.
it does look like it was constructed. It depends who you ask, but I know Wayne wants to speak to this, but I've spoken with this on other occasions where even when it's a constructed area and it's wetlands, Marty always says that if it's not lined and we don't have a construction plan for it, that it is regulated. Teresa mentioned it as a recharge basin in her memo. And mentioned a possible appropriate buffer of 25 feet and compliance with 292-39B. But then, I'll let Wayne speak because he seems to have information on the character of the area too.
Is this his this is not his application, is it?
It is.
He's representing the owner to the north, I believe. Is that correct, Wayne?
No, we're
No, I
representing
represent
Pat Miller.
Patton Miller.
Oh, sorry, to the south.
John
I'm sorry.
represents Mr.
So
Schwab.
John represents this property that is getting that?
No, yes. Wayne represents Patton Miller. My client is trying to buy a portion, Shweon is trying to buy a portion of Patton Miller's property.
So Shweon is the one who's getting that rear portion.
Okay,
Yes.
so Wayne, do you want to speak?
I just want to, I agree with everything that's been said so far, and at best is a notice covenant would, I think, be appropriate, but the area in question is a fenced-in drainage area, and the source of the water is through a pipe that comes off of Sabonic Road. You can't see it, it goes underneath the golf club. and it drains water. There's a drain right to the north of the green. If you look,
Oh, yeah.
From here to
Yeah.
here?
no, right to the north of the 16th green. You,
So in this vicinity, there's a drainage pipe?
no, it's actually, you see where the word Surbonic Road is?
Mhm.
Just to the right of the word road. If you hold that, enlarge that, you'll see there's a drain right there, and that the pipe goes on a diagonal underneath the green to that area.
Okay, because I did confirm with our town engineer, and he was not aware of any drainage infrastructure that was there, but doesn't mean that it's not.
Probably been there
The
since
golf
time
club and
immemorial.
Everybody would be happy to
Yeah.
stop, eliminate the pipe if that's what they want.
Well, I mean,
don't think they'd like that.
I mentioned this to the town engineer. We don't have any record of it. So also I can go out
I
there.
think it was something that was created long before records were created.
And I did see on the aerials, to be fair, that it was a constructed pond. It wasn't there in 30 and
And there's a chain
62.
link fence.
And then
around
it pops up in 76. It does look like somebody, does look like it was man-made, but right now it's wet and technically there is jurisdiction in 325. So that's why I wanted to
Well,
talk to the
But
board.
it's not, but let me just understand, this is not a natural wetland. This is
No.
land that's wet
Yep.
from self-imposed from a pipe that's draining from Sabonic Road. So
If you
I
took
don't
the
know how
pipe,
we could call it a wetland.
if you
Just
took the
wet
pipe,
land.
if you took the pipe, can I speak? If you took the
Yeah.
pipe away, it would no longer be wetlands, number one. Number two, this is not, there are some times when you have man-made ponds that qualify as wetlands because you dig down enough and it just becomes a reflection of the groundwater. But that's not what we have here. This is wet at the bottom because there's water being pumped into it.
Right.
Again, you can have man-made, people say to me, oh, well, the pond was man-made. And I'll say, yeah, but they dug down to groundwater. They've essentially made a pond there. This is not what's going on here. This is wet because there's stormwater coming into it.
Right.
So
Okay,
I
so
think
if the board is in support of just moving forward with the notice covenant, I was just gonna ask for a 30-day extension, just so I can make engineering aware that there is a pipe there, we can check it out, and then I can put together a conditional approval with that notice covenant.
Great. John,
So
can
we
we have a
could ex-
30-day?
So till
30-day
March 10th,
extension
please,
to
yeah.
March 10th?
Yeah, of course. And Wayne and I will make
Great.
sure that our respective clients are okay with the concept of a notice covenant. I thought about it and I really should speak to them. I would recommend it to them, but it's ultimately going to be up to Mr. Shuyan and Mr. Miller.
And
Great.
just be clear on something too, Jackie, if you find out that it in fact is the pipe as they're suggesting, do you still require the notice of covenant at that point still?
I'll have to look at that and I'll speak with you about that, Christine.
Okay.
It seems
Okay.
that we have to answer that initial question. It's the triggering event, whether it is a wetland or not.
Yeah, I'll discuss that as well.
Oh, whether or not it's a regulated activity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll review that with Christine. I'll also go out there because I wasn't aware of the pipe. And I'll make engineering aware of the pipe as well. So that way we can get that on our documents too, because we have a really good layer now that shows all the stormwater infrastructure and it was not on there. So we were not aware of that. So it's good to pick that up as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you, Wayne.
George,
I'm sorry.
nice to see you aboard.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
So I just needed a motion on the extension till March 10th.
Motion to extend for 30 days by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Oh, I'm here.
Dennis, you're here? I don't see you.
Here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So.
You can't miss me. I'm 6.5 feet tall. You can't miss me.
But you're sitting down.
But that's true.
So 7 in favor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, moving on to Heimowitz and Nussbaum, Curtis, number
Yes.
2.
So if you could please let in Heather Wright.
Okay.
So I will share the screen. This is, we do now have the map, so let me show you that first. Hi, Heather.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Heather.
Okay, so we have discussed this in depth a few times, and this parcel does have regulated wetlands in this vicinity. We were asking for the map, which we have now. So let me see if I can zoom in on this to show you the subject area, because before we impose buffer, I really wanted the planning board to have the benefit of where those buffers and conservation easements would go. So the topic of most of the discussion last time was the 25-foot buffer. So this was essentially the sketch that I gave to the surveyor. This is the wetlands right here. So I was requesting a manageable 25-foot buffer. I did want to see exactly where that landed with the surveyor, because obviously I'm scaling it and I'm not precise like a surveyor is. So the planning board seemed comfortable with the 25-foot buffer last time and comfortable with the vegetation to remain, but I wasn't sure the board's stance on the fact that we now can see that the putting green does encroach slightly into that buffer area that we were considering.
I have an issue with it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gloria. Any?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been enough degradation into the wetlands, because that's what happens when people aren't sure where things are. And we're asking for the fence to be removed and for the debris to be hand removed. And I think the putting green should be reduced. That's just my opinion.
Heather, is there space? It looks like there's space on this property to relocate the putting green.
Yeah,
or-
I can't see anybody. Is there a way to do this so that I can see you?
Go up into the view.
Yeah, it's your view options.
You see that at the very top of the screen, it says view.
Oh, okay, I can see you now.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we need to back up a second on this application and remember what it is that we're doing here, which is we're actually, this is a unique situation in which we're reducing development. And kind of like what John just said on the previous application, this is a transfer that's taking place on paper only. We're not proposing any development. We're removing what is a buildable lot, and we're attaching large chunks of those lots to the remaining 3 lots here. So we're actually preserving a lot. The location of the wetlands was unknown at the time any of these improvements were. Actually, the fact that wetlands even existed was unknown at the time these structures were CO'd. I can share my screen and show you an aerial photograph from 2002, which is when the tennis court and the putting green and the sand trap were installed. They've been there since that time. So, what I heard at the last time we spoke was that, while we weren't opposed to a buffer on the north side of the fence, I thought what I heard from the board after I showed photographs of sort of what the heavy vegetation looks like on the south side of the fence, that vegetation could remain. I mean, it's a significant amount of vegetation, and has been there a long time and been maintained by the owners for a long time. Quite frankly, I don't think that they should be obligated to remove that or remove the putting green. In fact, I mean, they can just build a house here. I think what they're doing is actually reducing development and preserving a lot, which is what we want, right? Most of the time you get an application for a lot line modification to create to create a more favorable building envelope, to create another lot. That's not what we're doing here. And we're not proposing any development.
Jackie, do you have some?
Well, so yeah, I know we spoke about the vegetation, and we weren't quite exactly sure where the 25-foot. I think everyone was fine at the conclusion of that discussion with the 25-foot buffer. I just, we didn't have that. So this is the initial survey we were reviewing, and then I asked for that updated survey so you guys could view exactly where that 25-foot buffer is. And this was my sketch that we discussed. Again, remember, I didn't quite know exactly where that 25 feet hit because that was just my sketch. So now we have, sorry, I'm trying to get to the newest map.
I mean, we have no objection to preserving that area on the north side of the fence. If you look at the photographs, that area is heavy woods and scrub, and it's not at all being maintained by the owner, and we're happy to keep it that way. But on the south side of the fence, we want to maintain our large trees and vegetation that was put in for screening, and we want to leave the improvements that are there. Certainly in the future, if the applicant decides to, or if the owner decides to make an application to the town for some additional improvements, they'll be subject to Chapter 325 and the relevant regulations. But here, we're doing a land transfer on paper. All the work's going to be done in the county clerk's office. We're not proposing any development, and I quite frankly don't think this one particular owner should be punished by doing a good thing here is what they're doing.
How many feet is the putting green encroaching into the wetlands area?
The measurement's not on here, but I think we're looking at maybe 5 feet.
Yeah, I would say 3 to 5 feet.
You know, on the south side of the chain link fence, it's a real clear demarcation. I mean, I can show you the picture if you don't remember from last time. I'm happy to share my screen, but it's very tall trees and evergreens, and then on the other side, it's very clearly undeveloped and would remain that way. So we're not, like I said, we're not opposed to a non-disturbance buffer on that side of the fence, and quite frankly, it wouldn't change anything because that area is not being used at all to begin with.
Can you show us the photographs again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Please, thanks.
Yeah, and I just wanted to let you know that, we did refer this to Conservation Board. So I did say a 25-foot buffer for the things to remain, because that seemed to be the planning board's intent. I wasn't quite sure, where that putting green was until we got this map a couple weeks ago.
Here's the
So
putting green.
this is the vegetation, and that's the putting green.
Oh. And you can clearly see that on the north side of the fence in this photograph. And then again, it's on this side. The other side of those trees and bushes is the area that's currently undeveloped. And again, the tennis court, the putting green, all installed in 2002 and has been that way since that time. And here's an aerial photograph this is a 2002 aerial photograph.
Yeah, and so the only other thing I wanted to bring up is that the Conservation Board did pass a resolution on our referral to them, which basically said everything can remain. The Conservation Board took issue with that and did ask for the covenants to be amended. So if the Planning Board does want to move forward, we do just need a majority plus 1 vote to move forward.
What covenants are we looking at?
A 25-foot buffer covenant
On which side?
on the south side, which was shown on the map. So I'll bring the map back up.
Are we asking?
I thought we agreed to that.
Yes, we did. And I just,
Yeah.
if you want this to remain, Conservation Board took issue with letting this stuff remain. So I'm just letting you know that we need a majority plus 1 vote to override.
They
the
took
Conservation
issue with what remaining, Jackie? I'm sorry, I'm
structures.
confused.
The structures and the non-native landscaping to remain. Would you like
Okay,
me to go to their comments?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
But can I say something else? I actually have a problem with, practically speaking, with the buffer extending into the area where the non-natural vegetation is, from an enforcement perspective, both from the town's perspective and also from my client's perspective. If we include those non-native vegetation in a buffer, what happens if something dies? Are they allowed to replace it? How do you maintain it? How do you enforce it? I think that any buffer should start on the other side of the fence. Again, we are not doing anything here other than altering a lot line on paper. We're actually protecting the wetlands by doing what we're doing. So we would only accept a buffer that started on the other side of that fence.
Okay, so can you, Jackie, please read what the Conservation Board is saying? I mean, it seems like.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna read.
In the middle of this.
Yeah, so my understanding was that the board was okay with the 25-foot buffer before, and that the landscaping could stay. So this is what I proposed to them, is that a minimum buffer zone, 25 feet for turf, fertilizers, pesticides, herbicide, fungicides, that's all standard language, or similar treatments, landscaping or other clearing of natural vegetation. to south of the wetlands, except for the planning board shall allow the existing landscaping and putting green to remain until the lot is redeveloped. So this is what they took issue with, and this was my understanding. So this is the proposed language that I brought to them. Their response back is right here at the bottom of the page.
Let's see it.
It's right here, so I'll zoom in a little bit. So their comments are, the Southampton Town Conservation Board adopted the following resolution on December 6th, draft conditions for the final conditional approval relating to wetland preservation for subdivision, blah, blah, blah. The wetlands at the site are naturally vegetated and are marked by an ephemeral stream, sorry about my mispronunciation, and which is part of a larger valued coastal ecosystem and which is critical as a headwaters and tributary to Seatuck Cove. The wetlands have a history of being damaged, disturbed, and severely impacted by unauthorized discard of residential landscaping debris. And a notice of violation was issued to the owner for the fence installation without requisite wetlands permits, as well as deposition of film landscaping. That has all been removed, and Heather and I did a site visit in the fall.
And can I say, I would like to just point out, because I think it's a little misleading, that we were not aware, that the owner wasn't aware that there were wetlands there to begin with. So while their landscaper shouldn't certainly be dumping anything on anybody else's property, no one knew that there were wetlands there. So, you know, of course that wouldn't happen in the future, now that we know that there's wetlands in that area behind the fence. And I think it's also misleading because they're referring to the terminology subdivision. And while I know the process is, you know, one and the same with respect to lot line modification and subdivision, but subdivision means, you know, in my mind, you know, adding another lot. Here, we're not doing that. We're taking away a lot. We're actually creating, you know, three larger, where we have three lots and we're adding to them to make them larger, removing development.
Yes, so that is the big picture. Heather, if you could let me just finish reading this, and then that way the board has the information. It continues that whereas the Conservation Board finds that the existing unauthorized fences, as well as the proposed retention of the existing ornamental non-native landscape and putting green within the 25 feet of the wetlands within the bounds of proposed buffer on lot 8 is incompatible with wetlands protection and buffer establishment, as well as the purpose and findings of Chapter 325. And then, so this is there now for, be it resolved that the Conservation Board hereby finds that the draft conditions of final conditional approval for the subdivision of Curtis, Heimowitz, and Nussbaum need to be modified to call for the hand removal of landscape debris, litter within the wetlands, followed by allowance for natural vegetation succession and recovery and removal of the existing fences, non-native landscaping, vegetation, and putting green within the 25-foot wetland boundary and within the bounds of the proposed buffer on lot 8, restoration of disturbance portions of the required buffer on lot 8 pursuant to a town-approved buffer restoration and native vegetation plan, and installation of a new relocated ungated fence line along the landward boundary of the required buffer on lot 8 in order to prevent inadvertent disturbance of the restored wetlands and buffer in the future. So you guys, we propose this. You guys have the ability in the town code to overrule the Conservation Board comments. So that's why I was bringing up that you need a majority.
Okay, well, now the whole presentation is much clearer to the planning board. You know, this, without reading what the Conservation Board had to say, we were somewhat in the dark. I mean, I happen to think that what the Conservation Board is asking for is reasonable for wetland protection. I had no idea that there was a fence that was established that was without permitting, and that there's a stream on the other side that's part of a system. I mean, I didn't realize any of that. So I don't know how the other board members want to weigh in.
Well, Jackie, that's what I read in the documentation, which is why I started by saying I had concerns.
Right, exactly. I see. I understand.
Can I ask a question? When were these wetlands ever flagged? Did the buyer of the second property know that there was wetlands backing his property?
No.
When were they purchased, Heather? When was it?
I think back in 2000. I have to check, but I know it was back in the early 2000s.
So when they bought the property, there was no flagging of wetlands in that area. There was no notice to him that he was abutting wetlands.
No, in fact, my clients obtained permits to renovate the house and install the tennis court and receive certificates for those structures, and no one required wetland flagging or identified any wetlands in the area.
And the wetlands
That's-
now got flagged because how,
Because of
with-
the application.
With our referral, Environment Division made us aware early on in the process that there was wetlands adjacent to the property and on the vacant property.
what was the year that they did the last renovation that they weren't flagged?
I believe it was 2002.
Yes, and they all have valid certificates of occupancy. We went over that. I guess it was probably November, December with Heather.
That's
So my-
correct.
Jackie,
Final question.
can
My
I,
final question, just in clarification, we are now asking them to acknowledge the wetlands and remove everything that has existed, what they did not have knowledge of when it was installed.
can I ask a question when you finish, Robin?
Yeah, I'm just trying.
Jackie, or whoever has the information. So was that fence and the putting green all part of the approval for the renovation permit when the tennis court was put down?
It was shown on the survey for
As
the
improvements
CUC
at that time or existing?
as improvements that were noted on the survey when they received the certificate of compliance for those accessory structures.
And the actual flagging date of the wetlands was when?
Very recent. I can zoom in. I think it was this summer.
Yes, it was.
But the point is that they were given permission to do this, and no one flagged the wetlands to them.
What would be the process? If you go to the building department to get a building permit, what do they look at?
March 12th, 2021, George.
Okay,
Sorry
thank
to interrupt.
Jackie, can you respond to Gloria's question?
Say that again, Gloria. I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
When they went to get a building permit for the tennis court and the putting green, what process, what would have been looked at? Was it just?
It was just a building, permit because this property was not flagged when they did it. So essentially, when the building permit went through, no one had any awareness of this wetland right here in 2002.
There was no reason, there was nothing in the process to say, we need to understand if there are wetlands.
The building division, if the property is flagged and if they're aware of wetlands, they then consult with the environment division, and then a wetland permit would have been necessary prior to the, installation and permit of these structures. But again, no one was on alert that there was wetlands here, so it proceeded as just a customary building permit.
So
Becky,
March 21, 2021 was the very first time these wetlands were flagged.
Correct.
And they became flagged because of this application?
Yeah, we deemed it incomplete, and environment division actually alerted me that there was wetlands there. So I asked Heather to show exactly where they were so we could have a productive discussion on the lot line modification.
Well, I mean, somebody dropped the ball to give a C of O to a building owner. How would they know?
Oh, we don't even know if wetlands existed in this location back in 2002. There's no stream or any water sources or drainage easement that runs across the property that could have created the wetlands, but they may not have existed then.
Well, conservation is talking about a stream. Can you go back to the conservation?
There's no
report?
stream,
There's none, right?
no.
Jackie, is there a culvert or anything under that road going anywhere else? Or
There's a culvert, yes, that leads to the opposite side. I witnessed it. And it unfortunately also then goes into wetlands.
The culvert goes into wetlands.
Yeah, there's a pipe under the road right there. So where it's wet, there's a pipe under the road that also continues into it. Let me go to, sorry, I was trying to get back to the comments, but if you see the aerial here,
Yeah.
when I did a site inspection, I did witness that there is a culvert that allows them to continue and go this way. So we have ponding of wetlands here. And this was a drainage easement that was established by the previous CTUC subdivision, probably because they were aware of some low-lying area and allowing the water to naturally continue. But the CTUC Cove is right here. So this is part of the CTUC Cove subdivision map, which I can show you, but it was a historic subdivision map. We have it referenced in the approval.
So are you saying that this drainage easement could have possibly created a wet area in the corner of that property And secondly, that a drainage easement goes into Setauket Creek, a drainage easement?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a historic subdivision, but you can see it hugs the rear of all these properties, which is on Seatuck. I have that map if you'd like to see, but I did, it's unfortunate, but I did see that there is a pipe here at the low and lying spot in the road, and it does continue on to these properties here. And, ultimately makes his way to the,
So in tracking the history back here, I mean, what we're looking at is poorly engineered situation with drainage easements that are creating artificial wetlands. I mean, as best I understand it.
Yeah. Or
The other
Right.
thing that bothers me is there's no notice to any property owners that there is wetlands. So now we're imposing a penalty on someone that doesn't have notice of an existence of an environmental question. I'm having a problem with this.
Yeah, how do you cure this?
I mean, so what Heather's requesting is that the buffer only go to the fence line, and that area to the north of the fence line is native. So if, if the planning board, understands that this is a burden created by historic, the map, I'm actually just going to bring it up so you can see it, but the map that was Seatuck Park was a 1970 map, and it's very hard to see the drainage easement even on that map. But it is shown, and that was one of the things we wanted the drainage easement to be shown. And then when I reviewed this with Environment Division, they were like, there's wetlands over there. So, and give me one moment, I will, I just wanted to bring it up before I'll just
Did
show you.
Marty weigh in on this?
Yes. Yeah, so if this is Seatuck Cove, so you can see this is July of 1970, the resulting map, and it is hard to see, but there is a drainage easement, which, even when I first looked at this, looking at the historic applications, but see this, it's a 20-foot drainage easement, and the center line is essentially on these properties. So it goes down here. Let me see here. And this, let's see here. I'm like losing my bearings. So, so this is the subject property with the wetlands right here. This is the property with the tennis court here and the putting green. So the drainage easement goes down this way, and you can see westerly line of drainage easement 10 feet here, and then it expands to 20 feet with the center line. So it goes like here, and then it continues with the center line drainage easement here. So obviously in the 70s, we treated things differently.
Well-
Our wetlands compliance code was in the early 1990s.
I mean, it
And
says,
and clearly what the area we're talking about as wetlands is probably created by this drainage.
Definitely.
easement, you know?
I would say maybe not. The development tried to funnel the existing wetlands into a manageable place so that the property could be developed.
Yeah, but is there a source north of that where the drainage easement started in 1970, when they put the drainage easement in?
It's just an easement. It's no physical improvements. It's just
Mhm.
kind of like a swale.
It's sort of just channeling the water. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's
That was my question. Where would it be originating from?
development or runoff, where there's actually some underground spring that's feeding it. I don't know.
A number of us. Think of the
It could
one
be just
on,
runoff from, right. Could just be
think-
runoff from the residences, from the lots themselves, or natural runoff from the land.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have a creek right here. It might have been a little stream that they understood was right along the back of the property. So they just wanted to leave it alone and let it passively continue. It's hard to, I mean, I can go back.
We have to go back 50 plus years into people's heads, which we're not going to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, so here you can see though, it was left vegetated between farmland.
And it was farmland, right?
Yeah.
Duck farms.
What,
Yeah,
Dennis?
but
Duck farms.
Yeah.
Duck farms, okay.
so you can see that here, is a native, it could have been a natural boundary where it was a little wet. So that's kind of the natural, boundary between these two farms. You can see this was wooded. So, these, woodlands probably absorbed it. You you can, you can see a tree line that's a little bit different. Let me take off the easement layer. But, so we have a conditional approval. I think the board can proceed how they see fit. I just need to know, if you'd like any changes to the buffer, if you're, but it does look, there is some low lying or something here that you can see. I'm not sure exactly of the history. It's hard to tell. Like Lorraine said, we're trying to read the minds of people in 1970.
But I think the point or the bottom line here is that, we've learned that there are wetlands there, I guess, whether they were the result of a drainage, we don't know, but we're willing to keep that area in its natural state and, not develop that lot essentially, which I think is actually a benefit for the wetlands. So I think it is reasonable to say, any buffer is going to start, everything's going to remain the way it is right now on the existing lots, but we certainly won't disturb the wetlands that have been identified on the acquired parcel that'll end up being attached to this lot.
Heather, what about the Conservation Board's comment and request that the landscape material be removed, those bushes that obviously have been put up by the fence?
Yeah,
You showed on your photo.
Right, we're not going to remove, that existing vegetation has been there for quite some time. In fact, the tennis court approval, when it was approved a number of years ago, required screening. It required certain screening, and so this landscaping has been there some time. We're not looking to remove that landscaping, nor I don't think we should. And these are really mature trees.
Yeah, when did we start? Yeah, from the pictures, these are mature trees.
Very mature trees. I can show you. This is not something that was just, installed a year ago. This has been, for some time.
The fencing came down, did you say, Heather? The fencing that was.
The fencing that's not, so the deer fencing will come down.
Yeah. And what else?
No, it was just deer fencing. The chain link fence that's there has been there for, since the improvements went in and the landscaping went in.
And that's on the property line, right? That's your.
Correct.
Heather, was that shown on the 2002 final survey, the fence? I can't remember offhand.
I believe it was, because I saw.
Do you have that, Heather?
So we were talking about 25-foot buffer. My proposal was what I thought the planning board was comfortable with, which was leaving the landscape and leaving the putting green. But, part of this referral process is we refer it to Conservation Board for their input. You guys have the ability to, basically impose what you think is proper. So I just wanted to let you know that, I can change this language as well. This was the proposal based upon my understanding of our meetings in the late fall and early winter.
Heather, your client is willing to do the non-fertilization buffer?
On the other side of the fence, yes.
Oh, only on the other side of the fence?
Correct.
Nothing on the south side of the fence?
No, because it would disturb all that mature existing landscaping, which is extremely important to my client.
No, I think Robin, you meant, didn't you mean the landscaping right by the tennis court?
Yeah, I just wanted to know. I'm dealing with north and south of the fence. I have a problem when people don't have notice of an existing condition, and then we are 20 years later imposing change, a change.
Well, I do want to say too, we would normally impose a 75-foot buffer. We're talking about a 25-foot buffer. And if the board wants, you can exclude the landscaping is right along this fence, and so is the putting green. So you could recommend now to move forward with a variable buffer following the chain link fence. But, I just want to make sure that's the consensus of the board.
I think it's heard that the applicant wants to fertilize the plantings that are in the buffer.
I didn't say that. I said I want the plantings to remain where they are, and certainly they're going to irrigate them. I don't know what they do with respect to fertilization, but my point is I don't think they should be in a buffer, because what happens if a plant dies? Are they allowed to replace it? Do they need to get permission to replace it? How is it going to be enforced? If they go to sell the property, how's the new owner going to be able to determine whether the property is in compliance? It's an enforcement headache. I think if you're allowing the plants to stay, then any buffer should start on the other side of the fence.
Well, I think what Robin was looking for clarification, at least best I understood it, is that the plantings on the side where the tennis court is that are landscape, that they will not be fertilized, and any artificial material put in them. I do think that that's fair, given the fact that you are right next to wetlands.
I mean,
How much would the buffer be? I'm sorry, Jackie Fenwick. How much does the buffer be if you did it south of the chain link fence? That
Well,
very,
this is showing 25 feet. So this is again, probably like, 7 here, maybe 3 or
Three.
4.
yeah.
3 or 4 here, and then it expands. So if the planning board's comfortable, it is all native, and they have cleaned up the majority of the landscaping debris back here that was being dumped. And so this is the chain link fence right here, Robin, that I'm following with the hand.
okay.
And then the 25-foot buffer, which is extending here, goes, it goes in a little bit. So it grabs some of that existing landscaping, and it grabs the edge of this putting green here.
So where's the deer fence?
It's right here. It has to be, this
Removed.
deer fence is 8 feet, so it has to be reduced in
Moved.
height to 6 feet.
But didn't Heather, you say they were taking it out?
Well, take it out or make it comply.
Sometimes you can just reduce it in height by 2 feet,
2 feet.
and then you're in compliance with the 6 foot.
And then there is an additional recommendation to, close the gate or remove the gate, closing the gated area of the fence, so people
Yes.
can't have access to.
Yeah, that way, yeah,
The dump
George, that's
or
correct.
into that area as well, right?
Yeah. So
I mean, I'm inclined to go to, I'm okay with personally keeping the buffer up to the fence. This is, again, the underlying application here is a lot line modification, and you're also getting rid of one buildable lot, really, with the lot line modification. Having noticed that there's wetlands in the future will certainly serve notice to everybody in the area that if there's anything to be done on that property, that they would have to then adhere to, some kind of a covenant giving notice of the wetlands, but
Well,
then have to.
they're all these properties now are flagged with wetlands. So there is a public record now that wetlands exist. So if the board's comfortable, I can just change the covenant language to have a variable buffer to follow the existing fence line. And then everything else, what they're doing here, we asked for a conservation easement, which would this is the true buffer that we would normally impose that doesn't have any impact on any of the existing. And this will all be preserved as a conservation easement. So, what we're gaining here is good in the big picture. We're also, limiting the amount of future development, because this lot was a buildable lot and would have gotten a building permit for all kinds of structures that go along with the principal building envelope. So, so if there's a contradiction between the buffer and letting this remain, you could pull back that buffer to the fence line if the planning board is comfortable. That way we don't have this conflict. And then the map can be updated as a condition of approval.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that kind of
Resolution.
solves that gray area, because Marty is also uncomfortable with allowing non-natives in the putting green to be in a buffer. So, I can change that, and
Okay, we're gonna need a supermajority vote on this, right?
yes,
I might be okay with changing the buffer, but I'm still concerned about fertilizer on the planted vegetation and on the putting green. That's clearly
Yep.
within 75 feet of buffer that we would normally impose. And Seatuck Creek cove, whatever it's called, is an impaired water body.
We can indicate that that they can't use fertilization.
Heather, I just
What's that
wanted,
language.
so
What is that language we use, Jackie?
can I clarify one thing though? I think the putting green is artificial. Heather, am I right? I believe it's an artificial surface.
So it's not.
So
I
it's
think
not
so.
going to get fertilized. The putting green, I don't believe is going to get fertilized because it's an artificial surface.
But the
But,
plant.
but the vegetation along here might possibly be fertilized.
Okay, so if we can include that, and
So do you want a buffer following the fence and then a non-fertilization buffer following the 25 feet, like two different instances?
Or, you know, or do you do something like within 10 feet of the fence or 5 feet of the fence to keep it like a uniform? So you have a line that mirrors the fence line and not like some, you know, something that's just variable.
Just honestly, I think that's hard to enforce, but I understand the intent. And Heather, I think, was trying to speak, so I'll let her speak.
I think that's my point. Having a non-fertilization, whatever that is, 3 feet in some spots, 5 feet in another spot. How do you even enforce that?
Maybe, but Heather, can I suggest that the non-fertilization is for the entirety? And we're willing to leave you don't have to remove the plants that are there along that fence. So the non-fertilization would be that would be a general statement. But at this point, we're leaving the along that chain link fence, what is that, south of the chain link fence, and leaving the putting green to stay at this time. So the non-fertilization is clear. It'll be the whole regular buffer, but we are going to allow the other to stay. I think it's right to ask them to remove it.
I very much agree that enforcement is going to be very, very difficult, but at least we're making the point to the homeowners that here's why we're saying this and here's why we're asking you to live up to what we asked for.
And I understand I do understand where you're coming from, but it's confusing if you include those plantings, the non-native plantings in the buffer. I still think we have an enforcement issue. If what you're saying is the buffer is actually outside of the non-native plants, right, on the other side of the fence, where's you're going to impose a separate non-fertilization buffer for
over all the plantings. I mean, it's not confusing.
It's two
Jackie,
separate.
you want to read us some wording here? You know, we've got to move on.
Yeah, we can move on. So I was just gonna say a variable buffer following the fence line for no fertilizers, pesticide, and then I'll add a 25-foot non-fertilization, and I'll keep the same area. So it'll just be a non-fertilization buffer. So it'll basically be the buffer will follow the fence for no disturbance north of the fence. And then this would be a no fertilization buffer. So it'd be two separates, but all within the same document. So it puts the owners on notice that they're not supposed to fertilize in that area, but then we're restricting any activity within the variable buffer north of the fence.
And then he doesn't have to remove anything, and we're not
Right.
penalizing him for something he didn't know existed.
Okay.
Well, I will speak to the client about that. And
Okay, so no action on this then? Will you give us it's an action deadline? Will you give us an extension?
sure, yes. I'd also like to understand, I'd like an answer to that previous question from the prior public hearing, if this is even a regulated activity though, because I do think that's the first question.
It's a regulated wetland, is it not?
Well, I think it was unclear.
Well, there's no evidence that this was dug. So this is a low-lying area that accumulated water.
But there's a pipe there, right?
There's a pipe under the road. I did not witness a pipe to the north. There's a pipe under the road to allow the water to continue downstream, for lack of a better word. But Heather, how long would you like an extension? Because I'll look at that with Christine and I'll confirm everything.
And Marty Shea, please.
Yep, and then I can update the language in the approval.
Sure, if you could send me the revised language, the next time you're on, I can come back and give you, and we can confirm.
You want to extend to the 24th? That's our next meeting.
No, not going to be around, so the following one.
That would be March 10th.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, can I have a motion for an extension to March 10th?
Motion.
Motion by Robin,
Second.
second by Tom, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Claire, you have a
Hi.
maintenance bond? Aye.
The post fields bonds. So we currently have a maintenance bond for the subdivision post fields. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
See Ariel? Great. So there's a number of houses actually being built along Carwin Lane, which is right here. This is NRP, which we'll discuss later. And there was a maintenance bond for the road, but one aspect of it, some additional work needs to be performed. So we're going to ask for an extension of the maintenance bond for a period of 1 year, which will allow everything to happen and be completed for the project. So that's what this resolution is for, and the town engineer is recommending it.
okay, the dates on that, Claire?
So that would be to extend it as of with the town board. You're recommending the town board extend it for a period of 1 year from the extension date. So if they go on the next meeting, that would be, probably sometime at the end of February. For a period of 1 year, we have the security already, and it would also require the snow removal contract because we'd be going into 22-23 winter season.
So we're talking about extending it to February 24th, 2023.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion on this?
Motion.
Motion by George, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Jackie, the Woods at Hampton Bays, you have a performance bond?
Yeah, so this should be pretty quick. The town engineer prepared a performance bond on January 13th for $1,064,011. So with the review fees, we're here accepting that performance bond cost estimate. The review fee for that is $72,546, but they've already paid $9,880.87. So that would reduce the review fee in total to $62,665.13 that is owed prior to signature of the final map. And this authorizes the town board to accept a performance bond once we get that language from the applicant's attorney.
Okay, any questions? We have a motion to accept this performance bond by Dennis, second by George, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Okay, Anthony. The Hampton
Actually,
Bays Fire-
the applicant has requested an extension to review the pre-app report until February 24th, 2022. So that's just an extension of the action deadline.
So extension to Feb 24.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Motion for an extension by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Matthew, Hay Grant School.
Yeah.
Reapproval.
Yeah, this is a reapproval. I'll just share my screen so everyone's familiar. It's for their arts and science building, which is proposed to go here. It's just under 6,000 square feet. And this will give them approval until February 10th, 2024.
February 10, 2024.
Correct.
So 2 years. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, motion? Motion to accept by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Matthew, you have North Sea General Store, the handicap ramp.
Yeah, this was for their handicap ramp. This is another reapproval. If you remember, it's going in the front of the building. And this will take them until October 24, 2023, which I need to add to the resolution.
October 24, 2023, 1 year, right?
But it's 2 years, but it's from their expiration date.
But it's what?
It's from their expiration date. They expired.
Oh, okay. So can I have a motion for this extension by Gloria, second by Robin, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Claire, Bridge Petroleum.
Yes,
We have a report.
Charles could let in 3 people. It would be Charles, I'm sorry, Charles Southard. And Pat Lenahan. And Vin Corrado. I think,
From McLean, right? He's representing McLean?
yes, that's correct.
Our consultant, okay.
Correct, yes. So I just want to make sure I've got the right documents.
Okay, I think we should go right into the report because that will stimulate the conversation.
I think so too. Oh, do you want me to just give
You want to go over it? Yeah, just an overview, Claire?
Yeah, just a quick overview because it's been a couple months. Where we left it, you were at the seeker review stage for the zoning board of appeals. This is a request to the ZBA for the gas station and the convenience store. And you looked up secret, but the one issue that you felt was not addressed is traffic. The applicant presented a traffic analysis. And the board felt that they needed some advice from a professional. And so you've retained McLean Associates to do that. So I think Vin is here too. I see Chuck. And just maybe Pat Lenahan, right, Chuck?
Yes, Pat is here.
Okay. I just don't see him yet on the screen.
He's coming.
Okay, great. And so maybe we go into maybe Vin going over his analysis. You did get over the report a little bit by the applicant, but Vin, if you're ready, you could go over what you found when you reviewed their reports. Is that, you feel comfortable with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, and just identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Vincent Corrado. I'm with McLean Associates. We're in Brookhaven, New York. I'm a licensed professional engineer, and I reviewed the traffic study that at the request of the board. These things tend to, it's a small existing gas station with a repair facility that doesn't appear to be currently operating, and the application is to terminate that use and to provide a small convenience store on the site. So really, the only additional traffic, the only additional attraction would be
I'm looking for you.
He's on, Chuck. He just came
Okay.
on.
All right, there he is. I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Vincent.
Okay. The only additional traffic that would be attracted would be that associated with the addition of the C-store. And obviously, any traffic associated with the repair facility would go away. So they tend to be, it tends to be a fairly benign application with respect to traffic. And that's why I agreed with the VHB's report that capacity would not be an issue, especially because they tend to attract from the passing stream of traffic. So it's rarely new cars coming out onto the road to use these things. But in the review of the site plan, it is a small site. And the orientation of the existing building, which they're proposing to retain, tends to constrain, especially with the constrained circulation on the site, especially with the proposed orientation of the pump islands. In particular, if and especially on a small site, if cars would be lined up at the pump islands, the aisles between them are very narrow, and cars would not be able to circulate between them to either access the parking behind the pump islands, because all the parking is located behind the pump islands on the south side of the site, or the exit driveway. So that is really the amount of parking is sufficient. It probably would be sufficient, especially because visitors to these things tend to pump their gas and then run into the C-store and then come back out. So but in this case, that would also present the problem because they would dwell at the pump island longer and further constrain the operation on the site. So it's not really a traffic and congestion issue. It's more of a circulation and access issue with respect to the configuration of the site. And then because it is a very small site, I also asked the applicant to demonstrate how a fuel delivery truck could maneuver on the site, onto and off the site, and also to provide some narrative with respect to where how that would operate with a fuel delivery truck sitting on the site, and activity ongoing at the C-store and the gas station, that would tend to constrain operations as well. So those are our main, those are the highlights of our review. And I guess we're pending some sort of response from the applicant's engineer. And the last thing is that it's on Montauk Highway, which in this area is a Suffolk County roadway. And Suffolk County is going to have to weigh in with any changes to the frontage on Montauk Highway.
Thank you, Vincent. Claire, can we have a map up so we can look at?
Vince, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I think you were also recommending that if you either exiting the one curb cut on Montauk Highway, there's no left turn permitted?
No left turn out, yeah. Suffolk County would probably support that as well.
Do you have the map, Claire?
Because
Site plan?
No, I understand. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure everybody else understands that. Yeah.
yeah, they have access to the driveway on Walker, so they could make the left out of there.
Yes.
Can I ask
But
some,
you know,
I'm sorry.
sometimes circulation is an issue, and people, you know, I've done it
Sure.
myself, right? You
Yeah.
can't get out to the side road. You kind of go out through Montauk Highway.
Can I ask some basic questions on some basic assumptions that I'm hearing? One is a convenience store is the same as the repair shop in terms of amount of cars? Is that what you said?
No, the applicant's report uses Institute of Transportation Engineers on information to estimate the additional traffic from the convenience store, which tends to be a small amount because, like I said, they tend to not be new trips. They tend to be drawn from the passing stream of traffic. In this case, and maybe if the applicant's engineer wants to expand on that, since it's his report.
Maybe let's take them one at a time. Let him expand on that, and then I'll go on to my next, because this is not making sense to me.
There may be the same amount of cars going down Montauk Highway, but there's definitely going to be more cars going into this property.
Yeah, I mean, those bays were not working, or you're making an assumption that the bays or the amount of traffic that was attracted, there's two things, that the amount of traffic that will be attracted to that gas station, that there is even a baseline, and that this is not going to have a great effect. I don't know how busy the bays were in that area and how busy that gas station was. And also, did you take into consideration that there are no other food stores nearby? And so that this might be attracting even more business than the normal convenience store would bring? That it's not going to be just possibly people who are gassing up their cars, and so they're going to buy a bag of potato chips at the same time?
Is that my cue?
It's anybody's cue.
Okay.
Yes, just identify yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Pat Lenahan, VHB Engineering, traffic consultant for the applicant. Good afternoon. Glad to see everybody. So my office generated the traffic assessment, and I've reviewed Mr. Corrado's memo from LKMA. It seems like a lot of the points from our traffic assessment, I think we're in agreement. But there are a couple of things we should discuss. In regard to the trip generation, a combined gas station convenience store, as compared to a separate, two separate sites with one with a gas station and one with a convenience store, does not generate the sum of the two pieces. There is an effect that happens between the gas operation and the convenience store operation that reverses the overall traffic. We also know, and it's well documented, that sites like the one proposed are heavily bound to the convenience of the customer. Like Mr. Corrado explained, most of the traffic that will come in and out of here is already on Montauk Highway. It is true, as you've touched on, that those vehicles will turn in and out of the driveways. And there is a certain level of traffic that the intersections and driveways have to accommodate. It's not a very large amount of traffic. Our letter does talk about the the trips that would be generated by the site or the existing use to reopen. That's something that we normally do on an application of this type. When we look at the numbers of vehicles and they're detailed in the report, it doesn't appear that they would have trouble getting in and out. There will be increased activity there. That's not what I think either one of us are saying.
There will be or there won't be?
There will be some
And-
level of increased activity. It won't be major.
And the impact on Walker Avenue is, that's,
Wait, can I just, how do you define major? I'm just trying to, I'm sorry, Gloria, I'm just want to go with his
yeah,
the
sure.
thought pattern here, that you're saying that the increase of traffic is not going to be major. How do you define major impact and minor impact?
Well, we can look at the amount of traffic that we anticipated to generate over a peak hour. And this is the peak hours here are going to coincide with the peak hours of Montauk Highway, because again, it's a convenience operation. Most of the people who come into this, there's not too many people that wake up on a Tuesday morning and go out to get something from a convenience store and then drive back home again. They stop on the way to work. They're already driving past.
This is a community convenience store. This is not something that's off the thruway on exit 58 that somebody's going off to gas up, so they're going to pick something up. This is a convenience store in the middle of a residential community. Are you taking that into consideration? Because it doesn't sound like we're talking about the same type of operation.
Well, the data that we're talking about comes from a suburban area, and it considers the size of the store. It's not large.
Do we know
No
if
one's
the
gonna do
applicant is
the-
applying for a liquor license?
I'm sorry?
Do we know if the applicant is applying for a liquor license?
I don't know. Perhaps Chuck does.
No, he's not.
So he won't be selling beer or,
No, he will be selling beer, yes.
and wine, bottled,
No, just
beer.
beer.
Just beer.
So there's a park across the street there, so it would stand to reason that people would make a special trip there to grab a soda, Gatorade, or coffee prior to going across the street to the park. So I tend to disagree with the notion that the traffic uptick will be inconsequential.
And we haven't looked at the Walker Avenue piece of the traffic. If there's
Gloria,
10 more cars. Yes, Tom.
if I could speak to that, Gloria, and my previous experience,
I'm deferring to you here.
the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, while I was still working for the town, there was a great deal of concern about the parking in this area along Montauk Highway, along Walnut, along Walker, this whole corridor. If you go back, there's no municipal parking. There's a little bit by the park there, but there's no municipal parking lot. It's unique in that way. I suggest that, we take a look at what's going to happen with the parking on Walker, how much inventory, available inventory along Montauk Highway is there. And again, in my experience in looking at those situations, along Montauk Highway, there is not a whole lot of parking. And so a lot of people, and I think in this situation, you're going to have a lot of people parking on Walker. And that, does create ill will, I guess is the best way to put it, with the neighbors.
They did come out to a public hearing and they were quite concerned.
Mhm.
Because this
Okay.
property backs up to a residential property and Walker Avenue is residential.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern is if it's going to be a reasonable trip increase, what's reasonable if you have a house on Walker and now the cars are backed up waiting to try to get out onto Montauk Highway? I think we had that has not been addressed in either traffic analysis, in my opinion.
Well, let me touch on the parking first, because my report didn't specifically focus on parking, but your consultants did offer his opinion that the parking on site would be sufficient. In regard to and that leads into the potential for parking on the side street. We don't think that's going to happen.
We could prohibit it too. I mean, you could
True.
prohibit parking on Walker. And I think that would
Absolutely.
be very, very appropriate if this goes
Right,
forward.
for a reasonable distance, so nobody had any thoughts of parking against the curb outside rather than pulling in.
And then
That
somebody
could make some
just
sense.
sit in their car and
And we had done that in previous situations where convenience type stores were allowed in the town. The one caution I would have is, remember, when you prohibit parking, you're prohibiting the people that live there also. You're not just prohibiting the people that are running in to, grab some sodas and chips. So
And
you do have to be
prohibiting
cautious with that.
Tom, prohibiting parking, if I'm correct, does not prohibit standing. So that means that if there's a driver in the car can be left running with a driver in the car while somebody stands their car in that spot where you're not allowed to park as long as.
Right. There's no parking, no stopping, no standing. Each has a degree of control. But your point is right. If someone's in the car, you have to go beyond no parking regulations to no standing or no stopping, which again can be problematic. Enforcement will be an issue. I just think these things, have to all be considered. It's really the parking that concerns me.
And if people want to have a party and they don't have a big driveway, where do their guests park if you put no parking?
Well, this would be just in front of the property, don't you think? That would be where people want to do that?
Walker, I think Gloria.
Yeah, on Walker.
Yeah.
But
The property on Walker.
just the
Yes,
guest.
you want me? I'll share the screen so we can look at it intelligently. Sorry. Can you see my cursor?
Mhm.
This portion.
So that'll force the parking back to the residential.
Well, they would be not very convenient if they could just pull in here and park, right?
Do you have the aerial, Claire?
I do. Just 1 second. Yeah.
Ironically, there's parking along Montauk Highway. There.
That's not it, right?
No.
Next one.
This
See
is
it?
it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's parking along Montauk Highway.
There is, yes.
Well, you've got two driveways, so you've got one space there, then you
Yeah.
have some going down towards, the downtown area. We used to get tremendous number of requests from the residents for more parking in the central business district. That's what I remember.
I'm thinking almost one of those curb cuts is closed right now. Is this a recent aerial, Claire?
One of these curb cuts is closed?
One of these Montauk Highway curb cuts is closed right now, and there's street parking. There's a lot of street parking right in front of that place.
Both of
I'm
these curb
not
cuts
aware of
are
that,
open.
sorry.
I do
Both
drive
of
by.
the curb cuts are currently open.
They're open. Okay.
But I think the plans call for only one curb cut, eliminating one curb cut and just
Yeah.
having one curb cut onto Montauk.
Right. It'd be
That's
different
Correct. And
with the building.
I would strongly consider prohibiting parking immediately west of the proposed driveway for sight distance, so that someone leaving the site didn't have a vehicle parked right there. That would be good.
Right. I believe we may have done, I think we have to go back, or someone has to go back and look at the existing parking regulations, both along Montauk Highway and along Walker, as part of this process.
Good idea.
So is it my understanding that you believe that the convenience store is not and is an acceptable business plan? The convenience store is not going to generate more traffic, more cars coming in from Montauk. It's not going to have more business than passing business of people just gassing. You don't believe it's going to generate any more business than that?
I think that's not what I meant. Let me try to clarify. If you had a gas station alone, it could generate X amount of traffic. If you had a convenience store alone, it would generate Y amount of traffic. If you put them on the same site, it doesn't generate X plus Y. They have a symbiotic relationship. Folks that go for gas and a gallon of milk. To simplify, it's not the sum total of the parts. And the second part is, as Mr. Corrado stated, most of the people who are going to visit this site are going to be traveling on Montauk Highway past it already. That's
But
just
there
the
will
way
be,
these-
but there will be more by virtue of the, nobody's saying there won't be more cars going into the site by virtue of the addition of this convenience store. Nobody's saying that. There will be more cars by virtue of the addition of the convenience store.
So there'll be more cars.
I think that's your question. There
Yeah.
certainly will be more people than were the existing repair facility to be retained. That is true. It's not a large number with respect to the roadway that it's on. It's I think the gross number in the traffic study is on the order of 40 entering vehicles total during any of the 3 peak hours, 40 entering and 40 exiting.
Yep.
And I don't know, I don't recall from the study, maybe Pat could talk about, how many are currently going in and out of there. But
Yeah,
that's, nobody is saying that, and Patrick didn't say it, and in our review, we did not say it. We just said it would not, it's not enough traffic to cause congestion, but there will be more traffic. And the main thrust of my review was with respect to the circulation on the site.
So if a person went to the gas station to fill up their car, and while they were there, they decided to get a coffee, they leave their car at the pump and they walk into the convenience store, they get the coffee and they leave, or they back the car up into another parking spot, go inside. And if you have a car sitting at the pump while the patron is inside getting a cup of coffee or a bag of chips or something, would that then not alter the flow of traffic in front of the pumps? Because the stay at the pump now is going to be increased.
That's exactly my point. That was the major the thrust of my review was because it is a small site for this type of combined use. The sites usually are larger than this, and especially with the orientation and the location of the building, I find that this site is constrained for this type of combined use.
Yeah,
that was my major concern.
Don't forget
you made a clear discussion about the interior circulation and that there were maybe too many pumps and that it could create this particular situation of people running inside, jamming up the gas line, which could then spill out onto Montauk Highway.
Don't forget, unattended vehicles at the pump are more than just people shopping. All the cash customers. You pull up to the pump, you run inside, you pay, give me $20 on pump 2. And the other thing is, if your credit card glitches, a lot of times the reader says, please see cashier. There again, you're leaving your vehicle and running inside. So it's this, we have to assume there's going to be a lot of unattended vehicles at those pumps.
So right now we're looking at 4 pumping stations, which could in fact be too many.
I believe
5.
Not if they were reduced to 2.
Oh, that's here. You see
There are
that?
2 aisles, right?
1, 2, 3, but then they're double-sided.
Yeah.
So there's 4 plus a diesel island. So it's really 5.
So the McLean Associates review addresses this.
Is this a diesel?
I think so. That's correct, right, Patrick?
Well, I have to ask Chuck if that's the current plan, because the one that me and him the one that I discussed this morning with the architect was a little different in this regard.
I submitted a revised plan.
You want me to show it? You want me to show it?
Please. Yeah,
We looked-
please. Might
so-
address some
Is
of the
this
questions.
this?
Yeah, based on Mr. Corrado's letter, we looked at the tanker truck, and we looked at the circulation through this area, and this graphic shows us how the tanker truck could get in, but there was some more discussion about a way to clean up the circulation. And one of the things that seems like we could do, and we didn't have time to do it for this particular hearing, would be to shift the pump island a few feet to the east and make more of a traditional aisle west of where folks would be pumping gas, to open up some of that extra width. That would make it easier for the truck, and it would also make it easier for vehicles to circulate around the pumps if it was necessary.
Can you show us how this delivery truck could maneuver? I'm not seeing it. It
If
comes
you-
in through Walker Avenue, or it comes in through?
If you move that drawing up a little bit, you'll see the curved path for the truck. Nope, the other way, down.
This one? Can you
Okay.
see it? Yeah,
As you notice the radius, that's a 40-foot radius, which is what's required for a tractor trailer this size. It shows that it clears. It could go onto the side of Walker and clear and come into the pumps and pull up to the front of the pumps. The fuel tanks are in the ground in the northwest corner of the site. That's where they'll be located. That's where they are located.
And the fueling operation generally with these things would take place off hours. And here particularly, I would recommend that this operation happened later on or early.
That couldn't be a recommendation. That would have to be a requirement at this point. I mean,
Okay.
you can see where the fuel vehicle would be. It would completely block access to one side of the pump island. So,
Question for Claire.
and it would be very close to Montauk Highway, so it would constrain it from that. So it would have to, it couldn't take place while the place was open, or at least it would have to take place in the way.
Question for Claire.
Yep.
Claire, to what extent do we have the ability to control hours of operation and delivery with a facility like this in a residential zone? Do we have
mean,
that?
for the trucks themselves.
Trucks and hours of operation. I mean, these fuel deliveries typically take place around 5 in the morning with the beep, 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 backups. And it's more than just fuel delivery. It's the beverages and the whatever they're going to sell in there. They come super early in the morning, and their house is right adjacent to this site. Do we have any ability to preclude deliveries before a certain hour?
That's interesting. I know in the past, we have brought up this as an issue, and the applicant has volunteered, right? It be a restriction. I'm not quite sure if Charles is, or Chuck is prepared to, with any of those questions, but that would be operation of the truck fuel delivery and the, and the products.
Only because if you look at the aerial, that their house is literally,
Well, it's adjacent to his property. Yeah.
At 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning with the beep, beep, beep backups, right?
Right. We'll look at that from a perspective of requiring it. I'll talk to the town attorney's office about that. But if the applicant agrees to it, then that would be something we could incorporate into a decision.
Well, it's special exception. It's residential zone. Doesn't that give us?
ZBA a use, so we'd be recommending that maybe as a covenant, right?
Oh, they haven't been to the ZBA yet, correct?
Yeah, this would be, you're doing the secret for the ZBA and your site plan.
Okay.
So
they
do
have
you
to go
hear
to-
that, Chuck? I'm sorry, you hear that, Chuck?
I wanted to point out that there's a residence structure to the east, and there's a residence structure to the west, but they're both businesses. They're both on business property. The residence to the south is in a residential zone, and there's a 20-foot landscape buffer between the parking, between the bottom of this site and that residence. So the truck will never pass a residence, nor will cars entering or exiting from Walker Avenue. It's all against another business.
I'm thinking more of the sound of deliveries, early morning deliveries. So we'll take a look at that.
It's an impact on this small parcel.
Claire,
So are we still looking at 5 pumps here? A diesel pump and 4 gas?
No,
Or not?
there are 3 pumps. There's a CO for 3 pumps on the site. There's two-sided pumps and 1 single-sided. The diesel pump is single-sided.
Right.
Claire, on that, the new area, the new drawing.
Yep.
That showed the radius for the truck coming in.
Uh-huh.
Could you just show me what happens when it gets onto the property? Because it looks to me like it's gonna hit the pumps.
So this is the new pumps. These are the new pumps, and these are the underground, fuel areas. So the truck would pull up, take their hose, and fill up from one of these places into the ground.
Go further down.
Down here?
Yeah, aren't you? There are 3 pumps on the right, and there's 1 on the left.
No, there's none on the left anymore. This is only pumps 1, 2, 3. You see that? These are cars. So this
What's
might
the
be
hatched area, Claire?
This is the truck.
That's a truck.
That's the truck. There's the truck. He's pulling in. This is
I
the
see.
radius. These are cars. These are just examples of cars being here, not at the same time, but how the cars would be on the site. And this is the truck would pull in, pull up to where he would put the fuel in the underground tanks.
So if the pumps were being used, he couldn't get into the site.
He could not get into the site, onto this side. Obviously, people could be on this side, but not on this side, yeah.
Normally, what would happen in a station like this, the operator and the employees know that the truck is due to make a delivery at a certain time, hopefully off-peak. If there was any sort of potential conflict with the tanker truck, and I know this because when I was a kid, I worked in plenty of gas stations. If there was an island that could potentially be impacted just prior to the truck showing up, we would cone it off so that there were no cars there when the truck showed up.
It's a constant enforcement issue, Pat, and management.
Can I suggest something? I know this has been a long day already. We're not that far into the agenda, but I think they brought up a plan, an alternative that addresses some of the issues. May I suggest that the applicant maybe put this in a form that York Track consultant can respond to in a written form too, and
Okay.
bring it back to the board based upon the facts and some of the questions you asked too?
Right, and
You think
McLean's
that's a
also
productive
asking
way?
for a safety analysis. So they have to,
Mm-hmm.
and the location
Right.
of the building and entrances.
Yeah, and there's some questions about the crash data. I think they have to work on getting that. So there's a couple things that need to be worked on. Do you think that's productive? And then we'll bring it up in the
Yeah.
next available meeting if they can address it that quickly. That's my suggestion.
I
Okay,
have just one other question, I think, Claire, and maybe they will address it. We know there's going to be some increased traffic, whatever, we're not quite sure what that is. But if we are prohibiting left turns out of Montauk Highway, we're definitely going to be funneling more traffic onto Walker Avenue. I have not heard that specifically addressed. What's the traffic that's going to now be on Walker Avenue?
Impact on Walker. Okay. Is that something you're prepared to address, Patrick, and then maybe Vin respond to?
If we're preparing another submission for review, I can look at it closely and put numbers to it. At this point, we're looking at increases in total above the existing site, and by the existing site, I'm talking about the existing gas operation with the auto repair is what we looked at. We're looking at increases total of 5 exiting vehicles and 6 entering vehicles in an hour. So you'd see something on the order of 5 vehicles more an hour leaving the site versus what it would be if, let's say, the repair operation reopened.
There would be also a commensurate redistribution of the traffic if the left out was precluded, Patrick. So that, I think that's the question.
Correct. It could.
What happens?
Yeah, so, you could be looking at, potentially half of that making a left, showing up on Walker, maybe more. But you're talking about a vehicle every 5-10 minutes. That's what we talk about when we say it's not a significant amount of traffic.
Okay. Okay, so
so
you're gonna address that. Great.
when will we bring this back?
Charles, what do you, Chuck, what are you feel comfortable with? I'm not here March 10th. So why don't we see how they're doing on February 24th, if that's comfortable, everybody's comfortable with that. And if they can't address it, it have to be March 24th, because I'm not here on the 10th.
Feb 24th or March 10th or March 24th?
Yeah,
So
do you
do we
think,
need any
Chuck?
extension of times?
Yes. Chuck, what do you think?
The drawing that I have that I submitted to you as a rough draft can easily be delivered to McLean Associates within the next couple of days. So it's going to be up to them how long they want to respond to it.
Oh, we need something in writing from Pat to address some of Vin's points too, and we need the crash information too. And I'm not quite sure how fast you can turn that around. So so we'll go. Well, that's the first steps, I think, if the board agrees. So that's up to you with the turnarounds.
Yeah, that's probably the longest issue. We foiled those documents already, but it could be 3 weeks before I have them available.
We can do March 24th.
think
If by
March
miracle
24th.
we've got everything together, we'll be back to you on February 24th. How's that?
I don't expect to see anything unremarkable in the accident details, but we'll take a look.
Okay.
Great. I agree.
So-
Okay.
So there's no action here, or?
Well, no, we'd have to extend the secret deadline. Chuck, do you
Can
agree
I
with that?
ask a quick question?
Sure.
With respect to circulation on the site, there's a fairly substantial landscaped area proposed on the northeast corner, on the northwest corner.
Yep.
And if that could be scaled back a little bit, that would also help with circulation, but I don't
We
know
can
how
talk about
acceptable
that.
that is.
Yeah, we
Because
can talk
I
about
still
that.
have, I still maintain it's a tiny site for these two combined land uses.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of them. I do a lot of reviews. We're seeing a lot of them where there was an old pre-existing gas station on a small site with no formal driveways, similar to the situation that on Walker on this one. And
Okay.
they've always worked. But when they come in and ask to put, the repair is no longer a viable, with 2 bays, it's no longer a viable business model. So they come in and ask for a C-store. A lot of times they have already started operating a convenience store on the site, and now they're coming in to legalize it. And
Yep.
once you start to constrain the driveways with normal curb, et cetera, it just clamps down on the circulation, the ability of a site this small to operate with two. But again, that's up to the applicant to make that case. And when we get it, I'll need some time to review everything that they submit.
Of
too,
course.
so.
Of course. That's why I think March 24th might work.
It might be worthwhile to, I don't know, to just reconfigure the whole site since it's going to be a new building, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility that way.
It's certainly worthwhile to take a look with fresh eyes and think maybe you want to reorient the building or you reorient the pumps in a particular way.
Mhm.
It may give you some kind of an opening because right now it's like,
There's some flexibility on the
Yeah.
buffer. So, but we also want to, make it an attractive site so it blends into the residential district, to
Right.
the south. So, I think there's some flexibility there, but good point, Vin.
so we
Chuck,
need a motion
Is
to,
that, okay? Well, just, I have to get Chuck to agree to the 24th of March.
oh, Chuck? Chuck, the
Yes,
24th?
we'll extend the deadline for the secret.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so can I have a motion to extend this to March 24th by Glorian, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you. Anthony, you're here with the Verizon Wireless Tower.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Vin.
I'm muted. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Anthony.
So this was for the wireless communication tower. This is the property here in the town of Southampton, owned by the village of the town's transfer station is to the north. The village's impound yard is to the south. And now there's a proposal for a 153-foot wireless communication tower. Let's just cut to the chase, since we had a very robust discussion last time about the report. I made the revisions, I believe, that the board asked me to, and I highlighted them in the first part of the report. Let me just get to that. Just bear with me. So you recall that the board took a pretty strong position about this project, and I tried to summarize those points here. So the first comment that we have that's been revised is basically to find significant issues with this Village of Sag Harbor's proposal. The first point is that this, I shouldn't say second use, this should say third use or another use on the already intensively used village property within the town's jurisdiction to largely accommodate residents within the village proper is in direct conflict with the town's own planning initiatives to protect and preserve the town's natural environment. I believe that was part of the planning board's concerns, was that the use which would provide a better service area for the village, village of Sag Harbor at the expense of the town. The second point that we made was that the wireless communication tower at 153 feet would be in direct conflict with this concept of environmental justice as put forth by the state, as it appears to unfairly result in a concentration of undesirable land uses in close proximity to the town's racially and economically diverse community, while ensuring such uses are not accommodated within the village boundaries. Then the other point with this was that this is also already a Superfund site, already improved with an impound yard and a transfer station, and that the addition of a 153-foot tower is just an additional concentration of harmful uses, which could further degrade the site. To that point, the site is adjacent to the Long Pond Greenbelt, which is an expansive area of coastal plain ponds and wetlands. And obviously we are familiar with the potential environmental impacts of that area. A lot of the land has been preserved. Further, the property appears to be within 1,000 feet of a New York State DEC designated tiger salamander habitat, and therefore there may be even more environmental review and mitigation per the DEC's wetlands, requirements for tiger salamander. That's what I added. The rest of the report, I kept the comments in there as it pertains to SECRA. Obviously, the second point was regarding potential significant impacts, particularly as it relates to the visual impacts. We talked about the radio frequency engineer to determine any gaps in service, whether or not 153-foot tower is necessary. The hiring of an environmental consultant, should we go down that path during the formal review. It's in an archaeological sensitive area, so any disturbed areas would be subject to that. The site plan special exception standards require 2 height alternatives and 2 location alternatives. A full environmental assessment and photo simulation will be required. And then the applicant shall demonstrate compliance with the relevant sections of the code as it pertains to wireless. But that was really all secondary, I think, to the first group of comments, which I think laid out the planning board.
I think you captured our comments very well, Anthony. I just have one word change, if I could, and the third bullet here, the DEC designated Superfund site is already impacted with the village impound yard. It's not improved, it's impacted.
Make that change. And I believe Eric Hellman is here on behalf of the applicant. So,
Anthony, didn't we want or I don't know where to say it, that there is problems with just the height, the 153, that we're not going to start setting standards now where we're
It's in there.
starting to install or consider 153. Isn't that against our plans and is that in here?
It doesn't. So I will add, I believe it was something along the lines that the height, I don't think there's anything specific in the zoning code, but as it relates to the planning board's previous applications, our long-range planning goals, that the 153-foot height seems to be out of character with what this board would typically approve, considering our long-range planning goals. And I could put that in there.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
You also have it above, Anthony. You have C, F, and G going up. Right here, staff with projects in the scenic corridor view shed avoidance area.
Oh, yes.
That's exactly.
Oh, I could put it into the actual comments and recommendations.
Okay,
That's no problem.
but that's where it says, because it's in a scenic corridor view shed avoidance area.
Yep. Any other board members or?
No.
Good.
Is Eric Hellman here or?
Yes, he's here. Mr. Hellman?
You're muted, sir.
I'm sorry. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah, if I may, I would just like to provide brief responses to the updates in the revised report, if that's okay.
Sure.
Just would like to point out that Verizon Wireless seeks siting opportunities based upon its coverage needs. In this instance, there is a service deficiency in the immediate area that Verizon Wireless seeks to remedy. The services that would be included by Verizon Wireless are emergency 911 voice and data services. Verizon Wireless will provide expert reports and testimony with its application, which show the areas that are to receive wireless services. Verizon Wireless strives to provide wireless services to all demographics, including the best-in-class services that its customers have come to require. Verizon Wireless is a public utility under the laws of New York State. Much like other public utilities in this area that are constrained due to increased demands for services, Verizon Wireless is experiencing similar constraints. To improve its service and keep up with the demand, Verizon requires additional infrastructure, such as the proposed communications facility at the property. Federal law prohibits municipalities from denying wireless communications applications based upon the geographic or physical areas that are to receive wireless service. With respect to the intensification of the uses on the property, Verizon Wireless is proposing to install its facility within a cleared area that would occupy less than 400 square feet, or approximately 0.04% of the lot area. The facility would be unmanned, remotely monitored, and would not generate sewage or solid waste. In comparison, a survey of the property indicates that the town leases approximately 7.7 acres, or 31.8% of the lot area, for a transfer station. As noted during the prior meeting, Verizon Wireless is amenable to proceeding with a concealment monopole design in lieu of the tree monopole. Verizon will provide updated design materials, drawings, photo simulations, and a visual analysis as part of its application materials. And finally, the updated comments in the planning board's report pertaining to environmental considerations are noted and will be addressed as part of Verizon Wireless application submission. Just wanted to note those points, and unless there are any questions, that's all I have for this afternoon.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? If not, I have a motion to accept the report, Anthony.
Yep.
The pre-submission report by Gloria, and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hellman.
Thank you very much.
Anthony, let's move into Dario's landscaping.
Yep.
Is it discussion?
Yep, Lori Wiltshire is supposed to be here either by Zoom or by phone. Let me get back to the screen here. The description in the agenda is incorrect. This is the Dario's landscaping site on North Sea Road. Once again, the old Roadhouse restaurant. I always go there. That's the way I can remember it. So the site plan came out actually really nice. If you've driven by, the building came out nice. The landscaping's nice, but we had some outdoor storage issues back here, which have largely been addressed. The one issue, and I was before the ZBA with the applicant recently, had to do with the condition of no outdoor storage of materials, equipment, and trucks and all that stuff. The applicant has agreed, and they removed all of the materials, any equipment, but they wanted, and they got to get a clarification from both the ZBA and the planning board, if they can, in fact, keep their trucks out there stored overnight in the parking spaces that were provided in the approved plan. So that's basically, you know, and they're before the zoning board pending getting their approval revised. And our approval, we did impose a condition of no outdoor storage really of anything. And aside from the trucks, I think that's okay. We don't want the outdoor storage of all that stuff. All these bins have been removed. The trees that were planted, the hedgerow, all is good back there. But the applicant's just looking for an amendment that would allow the parking spaces back here to store landscaping trucks overnight.
Oh, okay. So that's different from outdoor storage.
It is totally, and I apologize for that.
So to allow for overnight landscaping trucks?
That's correct.
Okay. Are there any questions on that? Okay, I think we can, I don't see Lori, Anthony, so we can just vote on this.
Yeah, you could just vote on it, and then I have to just, it'll just be a resolution that makes that clarification and subjects the site plan to all previous conditions.
Okay. So could I have a motion for this? Dario's Landscaping by Dennis, second by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Okay. Moving on, Anthony, Leland Lane.
That's actually, my apologies, that's off the agenda. I got to meet with Marjorie on that one, so.
Okay, that's a signage, right?
That's the signage, yeah.
Is there anything up there anyway now?
It's up there.
Yeah, it
There
is.
signage up there.
Yeah, but there's zoning issues with it, so I didn't want to bring it to the planning board with zoning
Okay,
issues.
okay.
And Carvel still has their truck parked.
Yeah.
You're aware.
I get gas there, so I'm very familiar with it.
That was administrative review. Administrative review.
Right, we never saw that, exactly. Dennis
Right.
is right.
Yes, it was. Very good.
Hi, Janice.
Planning board people would have picked that up.
Okay, Janice, we just have one quickie before you, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Matthew?
Yes, an oldie but a goodie. It's a reapproval for Watermill Bridge. I actually think Janice reviewed this back in 2016. It's for a special trade contractor building in the back. So they're not prepared to do this yet. This is the building in the back with some parking. This will just give them another 2 years to February 13th, 2024.
Do we know what's going on with that building, that the Bridge Club? Because I think they're out of business.
Yes, it was for rent. Mhm.
Yeah, it's vacant still as far as I know.
Yeah, it is.
Be back. We'll get it back.
Yeah. Okay, so can we have a motion on this, the extension? For reapproval rather by Dennis, second by George, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. So welcome, Janice.
Thank
Glad
you.
to
Thanks for
see
having me.
you. Yeah,
Nice to see you all. Thank you. Welcome to the new board members, George.
Janice.
Tom.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
and we have
Jan-
Christine with us now.
Hey,
Very
Janice.
good. It's like, just like old times here.
I know.
We're trying to figure out when, and it was way back.
That's really way back. So, so I'm here for item 13, which is the Canoe Place Inn Canal Eastern Maritime PDD. And there's some others joining, if you don't mind, and that is the applicant's representatives. They wanted to explain to you what they've explained to the town board as far as the vision and goal for the site. And I thought that was worthwhile. So I'm not sure, Charles, are they here?
Well, you have Guy is
They're here.
here and Greg Reckler's here.
Yeah, so Greg
everybody.
wanted to be able
Yeah,
to speak to the board.
Hi,
And then
Guy.
at the end, I can take down your referral comments. Also, the board is reopening this PDD for this limited purpose and coordinating lead agency. So you did receive that coordination notice too. So your comments back will be also including that.
Okay.
So Greg, you want to explain to the board your latest plan?
Yes.
Great.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
I believe so.
Of course.
Good. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay. All right, perfect. Wait, here's yeah. I wanted to see the people, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Give me 1 second. I apologize. All right, you know what?
That happened last time.
Okay, I'm fine. So I can't see you, so I'll stop sharing. But so really, again, thank you for having us. And I know it's been many years in the making. I couldn't believe it myself, but the change of zone for the PDD actually occurred back in January of 2015. As many of you are aware, we've been working on this project since 2005, and originally it was the plan to knock down the old Canoe Place and build a new project there. And through many years of discussion with the community and with the town of Southampton and others, we came up with this plan where through what was then a PDD, where we would combine both properties. So property to the east of the canal, which was originally Tide Runners and the bait and tackle shop, with the what was called the CPI site. So you're going to notice I don't refer to it as CPI anymore. I refer to it as Canoe Place because to us CPI was really the old it was the old nightclub, and we want to bring it back to its glory of what it was. And so here, just a quick reminder of how what in poor shape it was prior to work commencing. So one of the things as we really got into the hotel and being inspired by what we're doing was really thinking about what it meant to the community historically. And this was the central gathering place for people to come definitely in Hampton Bays, but throughout Southampton. And we wanted to do that, recreate that. And we wanted to do that through outdoor gardens and creating a design tone. So our theme is really gardens by the sea. And so for example, the lobby of the inn will have red brick floors, which are very similar to the original brick floors that existed in the original inn, in the old reception room. So we're bringing all those old elements back, as well as the lattice ceiling and in the lobby, and the ballroom. It's amazing. It was always a great space, but we were able to really just recapture what it was and the essence of what it is. And between the ceiling heights and the vaulted ceilings and the existing columns, we were really able to make this into the place where people will have their weddings and their family reunions and and all those things. And the same with the rotunda. Again, we were able to really, when I say recapture and
rehabilitate. I mean, we literally had to raise this building up off the rotted foundations. They were timber foundations, pour new foundations, and then drop the building back on this, and then replace all the windows. And thanks to the great work of your consultant Robert Strata and ours, we were able to really identify all the right types of windows and doors to make this special and redo it. We're as part of our original approval was for indoor and outdoor restaurants. So we're calling the indoor restaurant the Good Ground Tavern. Again, it's important to be genuine to Hampton Bays. And then off of that is a small room called the Little Kitchen, which would be more casual and lighter and smaller meals. There's a small spa in the building, as well as outdoor dining. And so as Mitchell and I were putting this whole thing together recently, we started to realize that in order to make this successful, we needed to really have the right level of quality and infrastructure and management. And so, for example, our general manager is a gentleman who used to work for the Four Seasons Hotel Company. We're bringing in top chefs, top managers, and we realized that with all this, we really had the capacity to serve more than just the 20 rooms and 5 cottages. And as you can see, we're creating what will be a very special brand that really nods back to the history of Canoe Place. And so as we're doing this, we also realized that we had an opportunity on the east side of the canal with the townhomes. And and as we finished phase 1 of the 3-phase part of the project, which is 3 buildings. And while we're really thrilled with how that came out, we also felt like this could be a really special way to be incorporated with the hotel and share all those services and kind of like tie this all together as one hospitality property, a community. And these are actual pictures of the townhomes. And in doing so, this is a common area. We thought about it more, and we met with Janice, and we also thought this was a great opportunity to also tap into something that was always discussed, but maybe not always obtainable, which is the springing easement. And as we're evolving and thinking about what we're doing, we're saying, well, wait a minute, if we're going to have this function, have this part of the property function a little bit more akin to hospitality, where people could rent 1 night or 3 nights or a week and stay there, then it makes sense to actually open up the easement and public access and make the property really accessible to the public, and not wait for for this easement to someday spring when it's really out of control of us and the town, and it really is relying on a utility and the county. And so in doing this, we kind of walked the site, the supervisor, Janice, myself, and we were able to really connect the entire waterfront as public access with a loop that runs. I don't know. Let me see if I can run my cursor. But right now, there's there is a public viewing platform that was part of the original approval that is built and exists. But the easement, if you look at this, follow my cursor along the red line, would wrap along the floating dock, around the property, onto the fixed dock where the marina is, the small marina is, to the end of that, and back up to another viewing platform that wasn't, none of this was part of the original, even that really wasn't even part of the original springing easement. But then out onto the internal sidewalk and onto the public sidewalk. And it really creates a complete waterfront loop for the property and for the public to enjoy and utilize. So I think the 2 things, the 2 modifications we're proposing is one, to
spring the springing easement and make that a non-springing easement and have that become effective upon approval of this amendment. And that would get built, in conjunction with finishing the rest of the project. And two, reducing the restriction of a 2-week minimum stay, in the townhomes, to daily, what would you expect to see in a hotel. And I believe those are really the two changes we're proposing, but we do think it would really, do a lot for both properties. We think that it's very synergistic, and quite frankly, we've become way more enthusiastic and passionate about Canoe Place as a property and a destination than I think we ever have been. I mean, Mitch and I are, we spend literally all of our time working on this one property, and we love it, and we can't wait to open it and share it with the community. So, Janice, I think I hit everything, Janice.
I would add that there's also a provision in there because the town board had a concern about the differential in the tax status of the conversion from the townhouse to the transient use, and the applicant is making the accommodation to make whole the tax base such that there's not an impact negatively should there be a difference.
Does that include school taxes too, Christine?
Everything, yeah.
So I just have a question, is the townhouses, so they're no longer condos, right?
They are condos still, but
Yeah.
they'll be taxed as townhouses, but they'll be utilized as part of the CPI complex. So even if they in the future decided to sell one, they're still single and separate. It's still a condo map. It's still everything it already was. But if anybody buys one and then wants to say rent it out, it all has to go through the management of CPI, Canoe Place. Sorry, Greg.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it has to,
to
we gotta all get used to not calling it CPI. So it will still be what it is. It already is approved as townhouses, but they're looking to use it as part of their hotel brand complex.
So if I bought one of those buildings, a condo, I could then rent it out like a timeshare? No, it's not a timeshare. I could just turn it over to the management of Canoe Place
That's right.
and say, rent it for me for 6 months or 2 months or whatever. Okay.
I have a question on community access to this boardwalk, which sounds lovely, but if I live in Southampton and I want to hang out there, how do I get there? And is there a place for me to park my car?
Yeah,
Yes,
there is.
so you will recall those 5 spaces where the public fishing access is, the overlook that Greg was talking about. We have a little public parking lot there that you would be able to park in, walk across. Obviously, the town board will have to put any reasonable conditions. I can't expect that they would want people there all hours, so they can reasonably say, this is open until,
Sunrise to sunset or something.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And but there's a place to park and there's a place to walk, and then you can walk all the way as Greg showed you, and then go on to North Road and kind of go make your way up to Mashut if you wanted to.
Mhm.
So Janice, is there, say you're staying in one of the townhouses, but you're having an event or a dinner party at the inn. How do you get there? Do you have to get in your car and drive there?
Yeah, I could address it. So we're going to have shuttle service back and forth between the townhomes and the inn. We're also going to have shuttle service for people who are in the townhomes that will also take people to either Mashut or one of the ocean beaches, as well as to either the town, the villages or towns. So I mean, the idea is to make this as accommodative to the guests, through creating access, shuttle access for them, that if everything almost feels like it's one property, and I think that will make it easier on the surrounding areas as well in terms of impact.
So it's like a concierge service, as you would if you were
Right.
staying at a really nice hotel and you wanted to go somewhere they would provide you with
Have
a
you
car
thought
service or a bus.
Yes,
Have you thought of
correct.
using the canal to get from one side to the other? I'm not sure if that's feasible, but rather than having to go out on the road.
I'm sorry, Gloria, I just didn't hear the first thing you said.
Have you thought about using the canal?
There's no,
Oh.
don't forget the town property is in between, so it's really no landing on the other side for that.
Okay.
There's nowhere to stop.
And it's if you're a boater as I am, it's a rough piece of water.
Well, I've been through there.
Janice, can I ask a question? I've been out of the loop and this has developed over the last few years, but there was one aspect of second aspect of this presentation where they talked about reducing the number of nights these can be rented from 2 weeks to less than that. Can you expand on that if I heard that correctly?
We didn't really limit it. It would be, they would have the flexibility based on, market demand to rent it as they will. If it's a 2-night or it's basically as a hotel would work. We don't get involved in a commercial motel in that way. We just say it's for transient, meaning you can't use it. But here it's interesting because we've already gone the full extent of residential. Like usually we put those limits because we don't want the use to become residential, but here it's already approved as residential and almost moving back in the other direction. So we've already approved it all to be townhouse. And so, limiting the stays, et cetera, doesn't necessarily make sense. We don't, we haven't gotten that far as the town board goes, what kind of limitation they want. I think the only limitation is they just wouldn't want it to be, every night or something. It would, but when you're dealing with this type of level of luxury, I don't think people really rent it only one night. It's more so, 3 nights or a week or a season, something like that. Right, Greg?
Yeah, and again, as you said, it's the seasonality will also fluctuate too. But in the summer months, I'm sure we're gonna have minimum night stays that are probably gonna be 3 to 5 nights, depending upon the seasonality. What's nice is on the off season, it'd be nice to be able to backfill with 1 or 2 nights, for someone who wants to come out for a weekend. And that's a good time of year for all of us, to have that function and and be active. So.
Thank you.
At one time, there was thought, maybe discussion of a walking, of a pedestrian sidewalk or attachment to the bridge to be able to walk back and forth across. I presume that's never gone anywhere. Janice,
We've never been able to get that far with any other agency, and that's why part of our reason for loving this is that we don't have to be conditioned upon the county and state anymore in this case with the easement, because that was our biggest problem all along.
But you can hardly get a car through there. Never forget people on foot.
Well, there is you can walk across the main Montauk Highway. There is a side area that could go across the main, crossing. We're talking railroad bridge. It's very impossible. But when it comes to the regular Montauk Highway, you could cross back and forth.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember there being a sidewalk there. Is there a sidewalk there?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what there is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's it's a sidewalk. It's not the prettiest of sidewalks, but I've walked across.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a possibility for some.
Yeah, sure. I think people can walk across if they choose to walk across.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you meant the railroad bridge side. The other crossing.
No.
Yeah, we had originally we're talking about like a bike thing across a tad as an appendage to the railroad bridge. Remember that?
Right.
Yeah,
yep.
that's what I thought you meant.
Okay.
You can walk over the bridge, but getting to the inside could be a little bit challenging because of traffic.
Yeah, that's just not going to work. So we're just going to not do that, but we're going to have a great waterfront access now, which is, as you know, the goal all along. Yeah. So do you have any comments for the town board that you would like to convey?
The process is that you have to amend, we're coordinating, we're
Well, they're going to, they've already coordinated with you, so you could say you have no objection to them being lead agency, because obviously that's their function
Right.
here. And it would be whether or not you support the proposed changes that we've discussed.
Right.
And Janice, I think you addressed Gloria's comment, but non-patrons having access to this walkway, you said there are some parking spaces.
Oh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
parking
Places that are-
spaces, and then we have already a public access easement agreement that now, which was that springing easement, which now we will change to be not springing, and then the conditions of that are such that, reasonably have gone up to sundown. I don't know the cutoff time,
Right.
if it's different for the whole walking through, but yeah, you should be able to, like, say after dinner, go down and take a walk and look at the viewing platform, and it's gorgeous, and then keep going. And also, as you know, there's the Palmanock path above at the other
Right.
east of the property.
Janice, I don't know, has the town board ever considered limitations on, there's extensive fishing along the canal on the west side. If this is a pedestrian and viewing platform, have they considered limitations on fishing activity on this walkway? They don't have.
There's only fishing at the viewing platform. There's no way you're fishing off like a, floating dock that's going up and down.
No, that never came. There's no opportunity to fish there.
I don't think that it's really conducive to fishing in that location. The overlook thing, maybe, but not the rest of it. But on the other side where people fish.
It's something that, because the fishing activities, they might not be compatible uses with people who want to stroll and view the canal, the waterfront. It might be incompatible uses. I don't know what abilities they have, if that is looked at or not.
It's really just a promenade for pedestrian viewing. It's not really meant for active recreation. The fishing on the west side, on the other side of the canal, will not be impeded, and anybody can still fish there, and they're not gonna cast across and hit anybody. Is that what you mean? Or you're saying
are people going to come there and actively fish along that promenade?
When you see it, it's really not on the land side. I mean, they could potentially.
It's not
on
close
that
enough to the
overlook.
water to cast. Is that what you're saying? It's not close enough.
It is on the water, but you're beyond like a floating dock, and that doesn't make any sense to be like fishing off of there.
You got to know fishermen or fishing people. They may.
We can actually address that in our
I think
on
you
the
should.
town board side and make sure that that's.
I just know the west side of the canal gets very crowded, and then it's like, well, let's find some place less crowded to fish. I don't know.
And I don't think
that was an issue, Dennis. I remember we discussed this with those 5 parking spaces and public access. And,
well, more than just
how are we
parking.
accommodating fishing?
When you look at fishing, there are usually poles, lodged across the walkway. There's bait cutting activity. There's all kinds of activities that might not be compatible with a promenade where pedestrians want to come out and look at the water.
Yeah, but I
Certainly
mean,
not
like,
the
if you're
residents'
really going to sit there and fish, you should just go a little bit further up where all those benches are and fish from there at the mouth of the, why would you fish from like a weird floating dock where people are walking by when you could be fishing unimpeded on that huge stretch of area with all those benches?
Right, a little farther north, I think, is where most of the fishing is on both sides of the canal. I think it's a little north of this location.
Right.
Up more where the parking lots are.
Okay.
We can address it, but I don't know that you're going to, they can put up a sign that says no fishing, on those floating docks.
I don't know whether they can or not. I don't know what.
The access is meant to be a public promenade, and the
Greg, you have
overlook.
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think you wouldn't want people fishing on the floating dock. And I think it could impede people's enjoyment in terms of moving around the property. I don't, again, I'm comfortable with whatever this board decides, but I agree. I think if you're going to fish, you'd want to fish on the west side of the canal, where there's plenty of of access and parking, and it's and it's not floating. It's a fixed pier.
So I guess one of the comments that we can say is just look at the fishing opportunities for local people.
specifically whether we want to encourage fishing, because that might sort of direct them to, hey, let's open this up for fishing. You know, if we,
Yeah, I just think it could be dangerous too. It just makes me nervous. I'm afraid
exactly.
of that.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, and I think, I think because there is a fixed pier directly opposite, you know, in the, you know, it's not, you know, I don't think we're restricting people from having access to the canal. I just think that's not the best location to fish.
Yeah, but I could add that. So I could say,
Yeah.
so if you're inclined to support it, I could say you support the proposed changes with the comment that the town board may want to restrict any fishing off floating docks, and that you have no objection for them being lead agency pursuant to secret.
I think not even restrict, but prohibit any fishing, Janice.
Okay.
Janice, can I just ask a question? Was on the springing easement, was that supposed to also connect to Mashut, give a walking to Mashut?
No.
What was, Glory?
You were always supposed to get back to the road.
Yeah, and then up to Mashut.
And
Yeah, the offsite improvements have all been constructed.
okay, that's a better way of asking the question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, everything they were required to do in the PDD in terms of the sidewalk connections have been done.
Okay, that was the answer. Thank you.
So as you know, this has been my project since the beginning. I've got.
I know, and you're starting to read my mind on this because you know how I felt about that springing easement. It's been the
Yeah,
base
so you
rate.
understand my joy in the fact that there's going to be a good resolution here.
Yeah.
And
So
Yeah.
I think we're ready to take a vote on your report, Janice.
Great.
We accept this report going to the town board. Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Great. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.
thank you all. Appreciate
Good luck
it.
with the
Take care.
project.
Everybody. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you all at the canoe place this summer.
Be nice.
Can't
This
wait.
summer,
I'm hoping. We're working hard.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
of a grand opening.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Claire, you are NRP.
I am. So if you've had a chance to look at it, I put it in the packet, and I think I gave you the link to the scope.
Yes. Mhm.
And the more I looked at it, the more it's exactly what you recommended
Mhm.
be addressed. So that's good. I think Craig had a comment maybe we'd want to incorporate into here. So start with that, unless somebody had anything else.
Was that pertaining to the tuition paying district?
Yeah, so add some language to who would pay for that, for the additional tuition.
Yeah, well, if it impacts West Hampton School District to the extent that they would have to increase their tuition to the tuition paying districts, I think we just need to.
This is page 5, everyone. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Under consistency with community plans.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah,
unfortunately. I
consistency with community.
didn't
Five,
intend to work on this little laptop today.
I mean, Gloria said they may have to build another school.
Right. So,
That's a
Yep.
good addition. Mhm. What's the language, Claire?
who would pay the tuition and provide additional services? So that would be some, instead of, it would be impact of additional age school children on West Hampton School District and the other school districts. And who would pay for the tuition or provide additional services? And then gives examples for the BOCES and then verify the number of anticipated children.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So I'll add that language.
Right, because these models typically they pay a pilot. So if the impact is significantly above the pilot, then that burden shifts to the districts, and in this case, an additional burden could shift to the tuition paying districts.
I mean, Claire, my concern is that the master plan, clearly explicitly states that the need for affordable housing is more acute east of the canal, yet all of the affordable housing, with the exception of maybe Sandy Hollow, have been landing on the west side of the canal. How is this consistent with the community goals? of the town. We've got Spionk. I don't know how many units were in Spionk. Now
Right,
this
yeah.
facility, Quiet Woods, I mean,
38.
George's community is right across, directly across the street. That was 100% affordable, I believe.
No, it was
Some
actually about
numbers?
25%, actually.
It was how much?
About 25%.
Oh, 25%. So there was
7%.
75% market rate?
No, there was no reduction in market rate. They just left about 11 lots out of 40 available for moderate income housing, I think was the term they used at the time.
Yeah.
Is it in perpetuity, George, or?
No, I think this was one of the first ones they did. It was it became market rate. It lapsed after 10 years. I think after this they went to in perpetuity.
Oh, okay, so that is no longer an affordable,
No longer affordable.
no longer affordable. Okay.
So
I
maybe we
thought there
can,
was something like that.
maybe we can ask for them to do a numerical count of affordable units east of the canal and west of the canal.
Give us a
Definitely.
ratio.
See a balance between them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
I mean, the burden to these western school districts is very real. And
Yeah.
Stanton and Spionk-Remsenburg are picking up the brunt of this.
Yeah. Is that shareable data though? I mean, because affordability would also pertain to Section 8 vouchers. So
I think that's all affordable. That's all
Public knowledge.
available as public information.
okay.
They were done at, most of them were done, if not all, at public hearings or by virtue of some public venue anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Do you want to
think-
mention that too?
Yeah, I mean, East Hampton and Sag Harbor are planning for an affordable development on the Turnpike and Bridgehampton Turnpike, and those kids would go to the Wayne Scott School, which would be quite a challenge because that's such a small little school. And part of the deal, because this is money coming out of Sag Harbor from when affordable housing money when people don't want to put it on their property, that Sag Harbor has said, well, we will move the district and put them in Pearson. So that's a different way for a different town to deal with this school issue. I'm not sure that we can do that, but just information.
Any other additions or changes? Claire, this is a really good report. You
Yeah, you did it.
captured a lot of our concerns and they're clearly listed. I liked,
No, this is good. I think.
I didn't use one whereas. In the entire report. I loved it.
Was there? Or
And any other comments?
so I'm going to just suggest that those additional bullets go under the consistency with community. And I'll put some language together. I'll send it to you tomorrow so you have it.
Okay.
Okay, but if you're comfortable, I'll adopt it because I think they're going to go forward. This is a tight time frame for
Yeah.
scoping. Okay.
Yeah. Is everybody comfortable with adopting this with those two additions?
We had
Yeah.
a really good dialogue, and Claire, you got it captured, so.
Right. You did, Claire. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the report?
Motion.
Motion, who said that?
Craig.
Greg,
Oh, Craig, hi. Motion by Craig, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you. Matthew 15.
Yes, my last one.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
We're rescheduling this, right?
Yes, consider it a parting gift. This was originally deemed complete back on January 24th. The applicant can't be present on the scheduled date, so we'll be rescheduling this to March 10th.
March 10th. Okay, can I have a motion for that?
motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstention, 7 in favor. Matthew,
Thank you, everybody.
Good luck.
Good luck.
good luck.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt.
The emails were very nice and appreciated. I'm going to miss you guys. It was a pleasure working with all of you. And instead of saying goodbye, I'll say see you next time.
Oh, I like that.
That's great.
See you next time.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Matthew. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the Lewis Road, both 16 and 18, Claire?
The first thing on the agenda is the subdivision, and Jackie, who is our expert, is in charge of that aspect of it. And then I'm in charge of the site plan aspects of it. We've both taken a hard look at everything submitted, and they're lacking some very basic information that we need to process this application. I put in the packet under 18 a checklist that outlines some of the items that we need. And it's a big project, so it's hard to get a handle on that for any applicants. So we're going to work with them. We're going to internally come up with a very complete list for them to go forward and meet with them hopefully next week. I do believe that talked about maybe doing a work session, maybe for the 24th. It might be a little premature, but we'll see how we do it, and we'll let you know early on whether it's
Okay.
going to come on for a work session or not,
Good. And Janice said she would be part of that as well, so.
which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have 2 new board members and, there's just a lot of information to
Definitely.
understand, absorb, and discuss.
Mhm.
Wayne, did you want to say anything?
Yes, so it's Wayne Bruin for the record on behalf of Lewis Road PRD. And as Claire just indicated, this is a very large application. We have both Claire and Jackie who are familiar with it, but weren't really reviewing it. And thus there's a lot of information here. And as you know, we were at a preliminary stage, went to the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens with Marty Shea in the town, asked for some changes, which were all for the better. And I think it would be appropriate. Number one, there was a suggestion for a work session so we could at least present you the changes that the Pine Barrens, how this project evolved with the Pine Barrens. But more importantly, we understand the checklist that the staff has put together, and we appreciate all the work they've done on that, preparing that, and thus we'll try to address all those as promptly. And I believe we are at their request having a meeting next week. I think it's Tuesday. I think we'll talk about, so we can start to address all those. So
Good.
I understand your action today is just to adopt the resolution to deem the application complete. The one thing I would note, and I understand the 2 parts, but more importantly, it is a subdivision application which has a component of site plan review for the common areas. And but for the subdivision, you wouldn't have the site plan. So I think it's a sort of a combined application, not necessarily 2 separate applications. So I just say that for the record, so going forward, but I understand how you got both Jackie and Claire involved. So appreciate everyone's efforts and
You need 2
yes,
brains.
That equals Anthony.
That equal Anthony's brain. So are we, so that we can earmark the time for a substantive work session, we think it's going to be on the 24th or March 10th? We think
Can't be
24th.
March 10th.
Oh, because you're not here. Yeah.
I'm not here.
Okay, so 24th then, right?
Try for the 24th, and if not, it'll be the March 24th meeting.
Okay.
Well, I
All
think
right.
we just have to have a lighter afternoon session.
Yeah, because it would be a work session that would be a
This is-
solid hour. At
Yeah,
least.
we need to dive back in, so.
Yeah.
Do we
Okay,
know
so-
whether we'll be Zooming still or?
Oh, that's a good question.
I think so. No?
I don't believe that we will.
What do you think, Christine?
Any
I
updates?
think we're gonna go back to in-person in March, and that's what I'm surmising right now. Obviously, I'll update the board on anything concrete, but I think that's where we're headed. But I'm not
Because
sure.
the
I
order
know the town
expires
board
on-
is.
The order expires on Monday, the 14th.
Mhm.
Has it been extended?
No, not yet. And I know that the town board is intending, I believe, to go back to in-person in March.
But we don't have, if we can't get to the town board meeting room, that auditorium does not work.
I think that they are working on something where perhaps the elevator, you can take it up. I don't know, that was a rumor, but I'll have more concrete information as I get it. I'll give it to you.
Okay, because typically the governor doesn't let you know till a day before. That there's going to be an extension, so. Okay, so
actions
Do we need
between-
two resolutions?
Yeah.
Claire? Yeah, so
One
a
for the
resolution
subdivision.
for the Lewis Road subdivision to deem it incomplete. A
Incomplete?
motion by Dennis, second by Glorian, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. And then let's deem the number 18, the site plan Lewis Road, incomplete. Motion for that.
Motion.
Motion by Robin, second by Glorian, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Anthony, Key Capture Energy Subdivision.
And so-
Yes, actually, I'll do 17 and 20. This was the work session you had at the last meeting regarding a large battery storage facility in Hampton Bays on Montauk Highway.
Tower, right.
Yep. So number 17 is to deem the subdivision application complete. If you remember, that component was for a point of interconnection station that would be given to PSEG. So this is to deem the subdivision complete and to schedule the hearing for March 10th.
So Anthony, they actually have to subdivide this property, right? The 2
Yep.
acres that go to to PSEG?
PSEG, yep,
Yep. And the rest for the storage units.
for the storage.
Okay.
Did we determine is PSCG going to buy it or lease it?
gonna
I
be
have
either
no
to-
idea, but I don't know that. Well, I guess we'll figure that out during the process, but I don't know the answer to that.
And is it PSEG or is it LIPA? I mean, if it's, I don't think PSEG is buying it. I guess they could lease it as representing LIPA.
I thought he said LIPA in it, or I'm not sure.
Sure.
Anthony, you'll
I mean,
check. So
I
we're
look-
deeming it complete?
We're going to
And
deem the subdivision complete and schedule the hearing for March 10th.
Okay, so I need a motion from that.
Motion?
Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, extensions, so 7 in favor.
And then number 20, which is the site plan application, site plan special exception. It's required a pre-submission conference. So let's do the pre-submission conference on the 10th as well.
Okay, because again, it's a subdivision and a site plan. for
And the site plan,
same
yeah.
thing,
So it's both.
Okay, so a motion to deem this complete and schedule a pre-submission conference
Motion.
on March 10th by Craig, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Okay, so we're left with the Southampton Farm Supply. Claire, that's you.
It is. I think there might be somebody here, and it might be Stephen. So, Anthony, can you?
He's coming in. He's coming in.
Okay, great. I think it might be so. So this is a proposal. Let me show you. This is that special barn we all love.
Big, beautiful barn on
Yes.
McGee.
McGee Street.
Someone's
Yeah.
going to save it. Oh. I'm
Somebody's
happy.
going to save it. So we have a pre-submission application to redo the barn as is and use it for a garden, retail garden nursery with office, warehousing, and a second floor apartments, which I forgot to tell them was not permitted use in the zoning district. That got snuck in there. So this is pre-submission, which is good. You get to look at it at a preliminary basis and see if it all makes sense. So that's the aerial. This is the proposal, which is obviously to keep the barn and then have some parking and storage. The garden retail center would sell, mulch and other things. So there would be some bins proposed. And the parking for the property. So this is the site plan. Now with the application, they also asked to do some preliminary work to secure the building. And I'll let the applicant talk to that. I think it's a little bit out of scope. Some of it involves new roof and things like that.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think that would be just a little bit too out of scope. It is an older building, honestly, and we would definitely, rather than, definitely securing the building is probably appropriate. But anything that might change the look of the building, we'd want some referral from the ARB and the Landmarks Board. They
Yeah.
would be definitely involved in it. So I'm going to have, they're there. I'm going to have them speak to the application. This action before you, at the minimum, is to schedule pre-submission conference, which would be for March 10th. So you can introduce yourselves if you'd like, Stephen.
Good afternoon. It's Stephen, Gretchen, and Cole Mezaneski, and Denise. And basically, we purchased the Roscoe barn, and we're looking to restore it to its original glory, and make it beautiful again.
How nice.
I have to say, one of my first thoughts, though, it's going to be right across the street from where the entrance to the potential pool.
No,
Isn't it?
closer to it's closer to the intersection. It's right on the corner. The
It's
pool
right on
is
the
down,
corner.
is down a ways a little bit.
It's right opposite the gas station,
Yeah.
the big
Yeah,
one.
that would be helpful if we could see where the entrances are.
The entrances are on the south.
On a plan too, that would be helpful even for the public hearing, maybe. If you could get that to us.
It is on the plan you have right there.
It is.
And look, they're talking about the entrance to the other. Sort
No,
of
the
deposit.
entrance is on the other side.
Yeah,
Do you mean like the gas station's
gas
entrance?
station.
The aerial will tell you that.
yeah.
Yeah.
The area looks like it's close, and maybe.
Hard because you don't know exactly how that falls, but it might be closer to this.
And the
If you look at the site plan, it clearly shows we're proposing to move the entrance further down so that the traffic flow does not get backed up at the light there.
Good.
So it's
Which
more
means
like here,
which means
which
it's
there's
gonna
no
be-
entrance.
which means it's going to be opposite the entrance to the
No, it's a
pool.
little bit past that.
The pool entrance is down further. Where's the pool entrance clear?
Isn't it? I'm pointing at it, but you can't see my finger.
I know. I'm just trying to think.
Isn't the entrance just to the
There's that
south?
larger parcel. All right, well, we'll sort it out.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think that's just something we need to know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to pull up GIS. on my
Okay, so we're
computer.
setting a hearing for March 10th.
Mhm.
And whatever information you want to give us before is always helpful to us.
The applicant want to talk about what you wanted to secure with the building? But yeah, as I said, I think the scope might be a little too large to replace the roof and things like that. So is the board
Yeah,
agree?
Yeah.
We're looking to replace the roof to help save all the old beams and all the stuff inside, because right now, I'm sure if you've driven by, you've seen how the previous owner
Yes.
put small patches of wood and stuff, so the water and the snow and everything is going right inside into the electrical, into everything. And we're trying to do whatever we can to save this building.
Can you secure it any other way with like tarps or something in the meantime?
No,
What type of roof? Are you talking about shingles, asphalt shingles, or is it a wood roof?
it's cedar shakes on there right now with lath underneath.
Cedar on lath, and that's. You're not proposing to change the roof line, are you?
No,
I can show you the roof.
we are proposing 4 dormers on the roadside, which the architect proposed because he said it would, did we just get blocked out? He said it would make it visually more pleasing from 39. Look at the other side.
I see. Those dormers aren't there.
This is
Yeah.
standing seam right
Those
here.
there would break the roof line up.
And those dormers are not there, right?
Those are
The
the only,
dormers aren't there.
Excuse me?
those are the only items that are not there. And actually the cupolas, currently there's 8 of them. We were reducing that down to 5, and those are functional vents that vent the building.
Right, but you know,
Something
this
like
is
that is going to trigger ARB review.
ARB review, yeah.
If it was just a
Because-
matter of putting, repairing what's there, it would be a different story, but you're talking about changing the roof line and dormers and
Yeah,
modifying cupolas and stuff, so.
you can't do the roof without that, so it
I
does
mean,
change it.
if you can get on their agenda, I don't care what's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
I mean,
it's not that onerous.
You definitely could do that. Yeah. It's just it's standing seam. So, and I don't even know what the color is. So you're going from cedar to standing seam. So it definitely is a,
They said they're
bigger
going with
visual
cedar.
change. Yeah. No,
He said it was cedar shingle.
it is, but he's going for standing seam now.
Oh, I heard
Only-
it wrong. I thought he said he's
Can
replacing
I
the
say
cedar.
something?
Yeah.
The only reason we were going for standing seam is because we're not able to get that quantity of cedar shakes right now. We were trying to look into it and it was almost impossible.
Right.
With,
Oh, we're not saying it's not gonna be approved. We're just saying
Yeah.
it's not something, it needs a full review,
So
so it may be appropriate.
I have a quick question. If we didn't do the dormers and we just replaced the cedar shake roof, do I need anything?
Well, if you go to standing seam, you still have to go to ARB.
No, I said cedar shake. If I was able to get cedar shakes and just replace it as is and not do the
Without
dormers.
the dormers?
You're changing the
Without the
dormers, though. There are 8 dormers up there now, right? Which is part of the
No.
architectural heritage.
It would be an
The ARB is
easier
not that onerous a
application.
process.
Steve, it would be an easier application if you were just replacing in kinds in place. Yes. Right?
Okay.
Board, right? I would
Yes.
just imagine, yes. Yes, it would be an easier application.
But the dormers might be a nice feature. Why would we discourage that?
Yeah.
They will.
But it has
Why
to
don't
be
we-
part of the full review. I mean, it also has to go to architectural and preservation, right? Historic
Right.
preservation.
Yes, yes, historic, definitely.
Why does it have to go to preservation?
All applications for a building permits need to go to a preservation if the building is older than 75 years old.
They just issue a report. They're not gonna, it's not a big onerous process, but they have to weigh in.
I'm not going to solve this today, and I don't want to discourage you from doing this application. It may get approved as you propose. It's just, it needs review.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah. So let's start with the pre-submission process. The board's obviously now has some material to review, and we'll go from there. And if you do want to go on the ARB, just get in touch with me with what you're proposing to do, and we can get you on there for a preliminary review. Okay?
Great. Now, can I just ask you a quick question because I haven't done this process before? How long can we expect for this process to take?
If you stay on top of it, a year.
A year?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for your time, and we'll be in touch and we'll get you what you need.
Wonderful. We're so glad you're doing this. Yes.
Claire, are they going to need any emergency relief to allow them to preserve the building? It sounds from what you were saying that there is problems with leaks and roof lines.
That's what we're discussing now.
Did we not do something like
But I'm
this with
saying
the Canoe Place Inn?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was.
Canoe Place Inn was leaking and
Yes.
falling down, and we did something there. I don't know.
Yeah, we gave
But
them
it has to be in, but they were doing it exactly in kind. I mean, they were not changing anything architecturally.
But we
'Cause I
gave them
remember-
some relief to allow them, so there isn't, the property isn't, deteriorating even more because of the elements.
Well, we'll put it this way, within that 1-year time window, once we close the public hearing, it's very common, we'll allow certain activities
That's what I'm asking.
specifically to secure the structure to go forward. While the review process, remember, this has to still go to the county to have their agencies weigh in, even though they're not going to recommend anything. It still has to go through all the referral process. But in the meantime, you could do the dormers, the roof within that 1-year period. But we have to get to a certain step before we can
Right.
give you the green light for that. You
That's the
understand?
clarification I was looking for, Dennis, that they understand.
You know,
Yeah.
the process is layered. And so if you're doing it yourself and you're shepherding this through, it's a big learning curve. So,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we were still trying to decide if we're going to demolish the building or if we're going to restore it. I mean, we would like to restore it, but if it, whatever path is going to make the most sense, which way we're going to go.
Restoring is the easiest path, the quickest path. Demolishing is you can throw that timeline out the window.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, yeah, we would like to see it restored, and I'm sure a lot of people would because it has.
yes. it has
Definitely.
its
We'll
dark
try to expedite.
value.
We'll try to get it going as quick as possible. Looks
So
very
right
attractive.
after March 10th, there'll be a report and we'll go from there, okay?
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate you.
you. Thanks. So could I have a motion to schedule a public hearing, a pre-submission conference on March 10th by George, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Great.
Okay, Anthony,
Thank you.
we
Thank
did 20, so we're on 21 now. Jackie Fenlon?
Yes, hi.
Completeness?
I can just be brief. David and Robin Santora, I'm recommending that it be deemed complete and schedule a final hearing for March 24th.
Okay. For March 24th. Motion on that?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Thank you.
Anthony, you have a rescheduling of the A&E Club properties. Is Anthony here? Yes.
I think he's muted.
Yep.
So we're going to, this is the A&E Club properties on Mid-Ocean Drive in Bridgehampton. They're looking to do actually it says renovate, but I believe it's an addition, the second floor addition for an exercise room. Existing building here with a rooftop deck and a viewing area. This is subject to a pre-submission conference. And so I'm just looking to schedule the pre-submission conference for March 24th.
Okay, March 24th.
How many is that?
Well, we have a few on March 10th and a few on March 24th. I don't know what the count is, but
I think 5 and 2 so far.
5 on the 10th and 2 on the 24th.
I think so.
Okay, can I have a motion to schedule this conference by Robin, second by Dennis, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Then we have some extensions. Claire, Verizon Wireless High Street.
And then my next one is
What is that?
Verizon.
Yeah. That's
It
an
is-
extension.
It's going to probably be the last one. They're moments away from filing their building permits for the wireless facility.
So April, or how long an extension?
Oh, I'm sorry, May 13th.
To May 13th. Okay, motion for the extension to May 13th by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. And Loaves and Fishes Cafe.
That's till May 22nd, and that is their second extension.
To May 22nd. Motion.
Motion.
I have a motion by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. We have 2 signed plans, Bridgehampton Commons, the master plan.
Yep. And
We're
then
acknowledging
flying,
that, and
Yep.
we're acknowledging an add-on, Flying Point.
yes.
Those 2. They took the water tower down, Claire, by the way, at the Commons.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Good.
Okay, we did it. 7 o'clock tonight, we reconvene. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Robin, second by George. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed, abstentions? We are adjourned.